This week in PlayStation, we're talking about PSVR games not being compatible with PlayStation VR 2, has State of Play found its stride, and if God of War 2018 is still a masterpiece. We'll have all this and more because this is PS I Love You XOXO. Welcome to the show, everybody. That's Blessing. That's Janet. I'm Greg, and you can get this show on patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames. There, you can watch us record it live, get it ad-free, and get the weekly post show. If you have no bucks to toss our way, support us on the Epic Game Store, Fortnite, Rocket League, or Grappleverse. That's right, Rumbleverse, with the creator code KindaFunny. You can get PS I Love You XOXO for free with ads and without the post show on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Fargo, Brady, Delaney, Twining, Holy Crumpets, James Hastings, Casey Andrew. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are brought to you by Shopify and MeUndies. But let's start with a PSN message from you. Actually, it's from Janet. Hey, Janet.
Hi.
So, Janet, Blessing. God of War 2018 has been all the rage around here. Everybody put off playing it. we knew this episode was coming. The re-review. Everybody put off playing it. Everybody's been cramming it. And you guys were out there Twitch streaming it and doing all of that stuff. But with Kratos on the brain, Janet, you put up a question on Twitter. What was it?
It was, you know, in the context of a lot of people when I was talking about the game, we're talking about like Joel versus Kratos as dads. So I'm like, you know what? Let's settle this. Who is the better dad? Joel versus Kratos. And of course, we had a couple of people stray in and be like, what about Raw? This is two toxic dads. That's what it is. This is the versus. Vote. Cast your vote, you know? And the results did kind of surprise me a little bit, especially out the gate. It was really heavily swayed towards Kratos immediately, and then I don't know if like Last of Us Twitter found it, like whatever side of Twitter that is, a little scary. I don't know, but then Joel kind of rallied a bit, but Kratos still took it in the end. It was 56-43, I think. So
that's, yeah, not only a crazy tight race, incredibly close, and yeah, surprising, I think, there on the results, because I thought for sure, as a man who would vote for Kratos, hands down, every time with a bullet, this would be one I would lose. I was prepared mentally for me to cast my vote for Kratos, throw it behind, and really just have him get trampled out there and not have a shot at it. So I'm glad that it turns out 56.4% of Janet's audience is smart, unlike the 43.6% represented by the one, the only Forbes 30 under 30, aka the Future Classic Gaming, aka the OK Beast, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
I don't know how anyone can think that Kratos is a better father than Joel. I think that's crazy talk. Like, that's wild to me. Is it not?
How is it not?
Is it because he killed his daughter? Because a lot of people brought that up, and that was.
But that wasn't like he killed her on purpose.
He
didn't kill her on purpose.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like if Joel wasn't cursed by a god, like that couldn't have happened to him.
Hold on, time out.
He was cursed by a god.
On the ones and twos is Barrett Courtney, and he went, what do you mean? What do you mean? He didn't kill him on purpose. He had a vision. He didn't know he was killing.
That is true. He was manipulated by.
Thank you. That's I rest your honor. No further questions.
No. But you're leaving out the rest of the context. Where he literally sold his soul to Ares to just win a battle, and like was, you know, willing to give up everything for this god just to, you know, win over some barbarians.
Barrett Courtney, where is your humanity and your sympathy? All right, in 2018,
no
God of War,
culture,
Kratos
you know?
lays it out for Atreus, right? He was a Spartan. They were born to be warriors. They were trained from birth. We have to. Ladies and gentlemen of the PlayStation jury, we have to have sympathy for Kratos. He didn't want necessarily to be
saying
nature versus nurture.
If we're talking about nature, Ares might have been the one who, you know, watered the crazy and uncontrollable plant that is Kratos, but Kratos was the one who planted the seed in the first place.
You're talking about
I mean, I think he made a mistake as a person that had an impact on his fatherhood, and that he couldn't be a father anymore because he killed the kid that he was a father to at the time. But like, I don't know. It is weird. It's weird to have the stance of I don't think killing his daughter automatically makes him a bad dad. But it's in the context. It's in people say it like it was just a Tuesday afternoon and he was like in a goofy mood, you know? Like this was
for context.
Outside.
Well,
let's
bring in context into it.
Carries it so much, you know? Yeah.
Let's bring in context into it because Greg is talking about having sympathy for Kratos, a man that was cursed by the gods. Can we talk about Joel, a man that was cursed by the United States government? Like, where's our sympathy for Joel? That man lost his daughter because the United States government decided to be
Joel. That doesn't mean like he's a good dad. He's not a good dad.
Yeah. What makes Kratos a good dad?
The entirety of the game you just played, 2018 God of War, where he's
of that
grown
game he's a bad
changes.
father. He's a bad father through most of that game.
Here's what's interesting too, and I have a quick question, a quick clarifying
Joel's
question.
Joel's just a bad weirdo dude hanging out with a girl by the end of that game.
He's a sad man. He's a sad man.
We're taking all of Joel, right? Like Last of Us 1 and 2. Because that's the thing too. You know, Kratos. This is. I feel like if we're just comparing the first games, it's Kratos by like a lot. But I think if we compare both, that's where Joel's, I wouldn't say has an edge, but I think Joel shines as a father in 2, even though ironically, even though it's not really irony, whatever, the best moment he has as a father, quote unquote, is in that kind of in between those games, right? And when she's younger and the museum thing and all that. Yeah.
Can we acknowledge the fact that Ellie isn't his real daughter? Like Joel did not choose this life. Whereas
so
Kratos,
immediately he's disqualified, is what you're saying, and I wouldn't say that. I believe in adoption. I'm like blessing everybody. You can put that on the record right there. Blessing at AU says
no, but Joel didn't do the adoption.
Family.
He just had this girl just given to him. But I'm not even saying he's disqualified. What I'm saying is that like it's understandable why Joel in Last of Us 1 didn't really want to like be in that situation, right? Like he was just given this girl to deliver. He didn't ask to love this girl. He didn't ask to have this girl. Like Ellie was just given to him. And guess what? Like shortly into that game, I remember the ride out of Billstown where they're hanging out and like Ellie, they put in the well, there's the portal mag, but there's the tape, right? And he's like, oh man, this is a good one, right? And like listen to the music. And then like Ellie's reading the portal mag and kind of joking around with Joel and all that stuff. Like they had those moments of connection earlier on in the game where even like that was before Joel had the turn.
What kind of dad just lets their kid read pornography in the back of the car?
I know, what a great friend it sounds like. Sounds like he's a really great friend. Maybe, a neighbor that you call uncle.
It sounds like Joel respects Ellie as an equal, as opposed to Kratos.
Oh, fuck you. He totally blows past Ellie's wishes and saves her and dooms humanity.
Yeah. I think...
Look at Kratos. He wouldn't put his hand on his son's shoulder. He wouldn't let his son hold his mother.
And when he does at the end, when they've been on this incredible journey and they're close and they're friends and he calls him son.
Yeah, you know what Joel did?
The end of the incredible journey, you know what Kratos learns and teaches Atreus? We have to be good people. You know how fucking that's like square one. You think that's that being the end of their journey, that he is like somehow like this better father? That should be step 1. To be a good father.
Listen, you know what Barrett did? Listen, Barrett, you grieve the way you want to grieve. He's going through something on this journey, all right?
It's which of the 2 are the better dad. It's not like, do I like either of these dads? It's which dad is the better dad. I think Kratos has more... Obviously, it's a little bit apples and oranges, because I do think God of War as a game is... Well, I feel like people would debate this. I think it's so much more about their relationship and also how they operate in context of the world around them and how their actions have consequences. Last of Us, I feel like it's more of a big picture humanity thing that we see through the lens of one specific relationship to kind of like add a more specific humanization to this kind of barren wasteland, right? It's The Last of Us. This is like the last pieces of humanity versus, God of War is just kind of a different angle on it. But I think there's more to take away and there's more moving moments that Kratos has with his son than Joel with Ellie. I think Joel with Ellie, it's a complicated relationship, and I'm not saying that Kratos and his kids is a simplified one, but I feel like it doesn't take as much to get them on the same page, and they don't end in a place of beef. We still don't even know like where that relationship kind of ended before they were able to really resolve it between Joel and Ellie. So
for the record, I would say, and this is something I think that really stood out for me in this the replay and the re-review we're about to do of God of War 2018, is that I would say that Kratos and Atreus is a much more simplified story of family, right, than Last of Us is. And I think that is the fact that Last of Us is, quote unquote, so real in terms of what it's trying to do, and people are just people and there is no the good and they're bad. Whereas I think playing through this time with God of War, it was very much like, oh man, like we're talking so much about Norse mythology, but this really plays and feels like a myth as well. Where, and I mean, obviously, it was full spoilers, obviously, for the whole thing, but like the end and like, you know, who Faye was and that being a giant and backwards and Loki and all that jazz. But like, just in general, the way themes and storylines are delivered, I think in God of War, it was like, oh, this is like I'm playing a myth rather than reading about it, I thought.
I want to be clear because I feel like I've been really harsh on Kratos, which I think is fair, but I do think Kratos is the correct answer over Joel.
I've never been so much in disagreement.
And I think the flannel death, KindaFunny best friend in the chat, one of the trogs, says all of The Last of Us 2 is a consequence of the influence Joel had on Ellie. And I think Mob L also puts it well. Atreus is a better person because of their journey. Ellie was worse because of it.
And I mean, really rounding out these really well thought out comments, rounding out these well thought out comments is Mr. Hawks 182 who says in all caps, Kratos grows, Joel blows.
Got him.
These are all okay. Why was Atreus troubled in the first place in God of War?
He didn't know his information.
Kratos was a terrible father.
Yeah,
like Kratos wouldn't treat Atreus.
Was he terrible or was he distant?
Nah, he was bad.
Distant is terrible.
I think distant is
if
bad.
Your father.
Yeah.
Listen, Bless. I'm sorry, everybody can't be like blessing Eddie Oyo Senior. All right, just be there, you know, day in day out.
Listen, I love my father. I would compare my father more to Kratos than I would to Joel.
Yeah, man. You know what? We're not here to talk about our dads versus each other and which one's the least toxic. We're here to talk about these fictional people, and to see what's
like
up.
Barack, like Barack Obama.
No, Brock from the game you just played.
Oh,
I thought you said The Rock.
I heard Barack.
I was like, well, I don't know that reference
Brock,
right now.
I thought of Pokemon immediately, which is not
his favorite character from Pokemon.
Yeah, but Bless, you seem like you really want to fight for Joel. So what do you have to say about this man?
I mean, when we're talking about the moments between Atreus and Kratos versus the moments between Ellie and Joel, for me, I think the moments between Ellie and Joel ring more like just ring better in terms of what that father-child relationship should be. Like when you're in the winter chapter, right? And you as Joel, when you find Ellie after she's gone to the fight with Sam, and it is him like going to hug her, being like, I got you, baby girl, I got you, baby girl. Like Kratos would never have that moment with Atreus.
That is true.
You know, like go for it.
But I think when like push came to shove, like Kratos looked at who he was and how he was behaving and realized that I can't be like this, and made a pivot. And Joel never really had that moment
for Kratos
until he got like so called out that he had to like. Well, I guess they both kind of. It's funny because they're both similarly toxic.
For Kratos to make that pivot, like Atreus had to almost die. Like Atreus had to be sick as hell.
And when Ellie almost died, what did Joel do? He just got toxic,
remember,
and then he doubled down.
But that's kind of the same thing. You said he wouldn't have the baby girl moment. Like he does scoop up Atreus and run back to Freya, right, and like pound on her door. Like there's a panic
when
in
he
his
said,
voice.
"I got you, baby boy," I mean, who could forget?
Yeah, but like,
don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
Boy, I got you, baby boy. I got you, baby boy. But like, I think for me, it's the fact that Atreus. Every single bad thing that Atreus goes through in that game is because Kratos is a bad father. Whereas, like,
if I can stop, again, this is all. I love this. This is great, and it's all part of the conversation. Kratos, especially after this replay, and stick with me because it's going to sound preposterous, but stick with me, please. I don't think was a bad father. I think he was bad at parenting. Because I do the problem here, right, and why Atreus gets sick is that he doesn't know his true nature because Kratos isn't telling him, and Kratos is still carrying the sins of his past here, and he doesn't want to put that on him, and he does it in a totally wrong, fucked up, why would you do it this way? Why would you make these decisions? But I do think his motives are good. I think he's withholding information from Atreus for what he feels are good reasons. And then once it's all out there, like I want to talk about pacing with this game and where it goes. But once it's all out there, like pretty much from when Atreus gets sick, right? That game, like, I feel it just takes off in terms of like, of course, Atreus becoming a little brat, him trying to teach him what it's like to be a god. But it is this moment of like Kratos finally being able to be open with him and talk through it. And then, of course, there is still the, lie about his, I've only killed good people. And then he gets to see Zeus versus Kratos, right? And then he gets to know what that is. And then there's just, I guess that's the thing. And this is so eye of the beholder. But for me, God of War builds from such a, oh man, he's a bad dad or whatever place to that just fucking gorgeous moment at the top of the mountain, right? Where he takes the wraps off and he's like, I have nothing left to hide. And he sits there in the sun for 1 second before Atreus interrupts, like, can we go? We're so close. And he doesn't get mad. He's like, yeah. And they go, and it's like, it ends so perfectly in terms of them being on like, man, they're a great unit and they know what they're doing. Where Last of Us Part 1 ends with obviously this big fucking lie. A great B-roll here, Barrett. Great B-roll, Barrett. But the lie from Joel, the sigh from Ellie, and then of course we pick up when Last of Us Part 2, and everything's fractured because of that decision. And so it's kind of like God of War builds to a great place and ends, whereas Last of Us starts in a great place and descends, and then we have to deal with all that stuff.
But I don't want to draw this out too long, but I do think that
this is the entire show. Don't worry about it. We can just talk about. We're just talking about God of War.
Then, if we didn't have the re-review, like, because you could, bring up all these different. There's so many angles to look at it, but
yeah, but like, starting from that place of Joel and Sarah, right, and that happening to Sarah, and then us kind of descending from there and working our way back up, I think is what makes The Last of Us is what makes that game work from the story and the connection perspective of who Joel is as a father, because like, a lot of that relationship between Joel and Ellie is Joel regaining his humanity, right? And being in this place of, I've been screwed by the world. My daughter's gone. I cared about her, and now, like, she was taken away from me, and now I can't care about anyone else, right? Like, I've lost my humanity in that way. Through this journey of having to take Ellie across the country, right, to like to the Fireflies, and have all these different things happen to them, which like reinstates Joel's humanity, right, and reinstates this like connection that he once had with Sarah that now he has with Ellie. I do think those are the things that makes us appreciate who Joel is as a father, right? He has a reason to be that way. Like, he has a reason to be hurt. He has a reason to be disconnected. But in finding those reconnective moments, like, that is what reminds us, oh shit, originally he was a fantastic father, and now like he's growing into being that again, right? Like, I look at the scene.
A fantastic father? Because I remember Barrett bringing up those birthday cards being like, love you, Dad, even though you're kind of not that great and don't really show up a lot or whatever.
Damn, Janet with the checkmate.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, she specifically calls him out of like, even though you don't like the music that I like, you work a lot and stuff like that. Like, I still love you. So I
think he's trying to pull it off though.
Yeah, I think it's more complicated than just that.
I feel like in that situation, Kratos would be much worse. But going back to it, right? Like the moments of taking Ellie,
Trace is like, you don't like my folk music, Dad.
taking Ellie to the museum, right? Like the moment where in Last of Us Part 2, Joel attacks the guy that's like going after Ellie, right? Like there's so many moments like that of Joel actually showing that love that he has for Ellie that like, I just can't see Kratos showing up in the same way. Like, he has those moments of growth in God of War, but I think just because you start at such a distant and bad place and then you get better from there, it doesn't overall make up for like, no, you were not great for most of the time. Like, you got better because it was happenstance and like shit happened and you needed to protect your son and also get to the top of the mountain. But I don't know. I think just because he grew doesn't necessarily negate Joel's like growth throughout as well, if that makes sense. Like, I think Joel started from a higher place.
Reopening his heart, being able to love again, just projecting all of the emotions he had from Sarah onto Ellie, ignoring her wishes, kind of steamrolling and then lying to her, and then kind of keeping her in this gilded cage.
Ellie would be dead.
That's how selfish.
Hey, I'm with Joel here. I would do it again too.
Well, I think they both stories play into the idea of doing anything for your child to survive, because they both touch on that of like Joel being like, I don't care if you hate me, like I will do anything to keep you alive, and Kratos had that same thing where like his kid was like,
Kratos
hey,
would let Atreus die.
Would you kill me? Would you let me kill you? And he's like, if it meant you would live, yes, yeah, I would definitely. He's like, oh,
that is a good line.
Totally normal.
Get ready for that in Ragnarok. That's got to be coming. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're doing all this. Let's move on to the topic of the show. God of War Ragnarok is nearly 2 months away, or almost 2 months away. It's coming, November. And so we thought it was time to go back and replay God of War 2018, and we invited you all along for the ride. Of course, God of War came out in 2018. It has a Metacritic right now of 94. It won Game of the Year awards at IGN, DICE, the Game Awards, South by Southwest, and oh, so many other ones. At review, I went back and watched our review. Man, I'll tell you, different day and age, even for a kind of funny, different day and age for reviews. I texted Tim. Hold on, I want to look at it because I think it's something like me, Jared, and Tim rant and rave and bullshit around for 23 minutes before we ever start reviewing God of War. And I mean, this is like, it wasn't ad embargo. We had a video like on Twitter at embargo, but still, it was the Gamescast about it. Doesn't matter. Back then, I said it's one of my favorite games of all time. And then, time passed and I said it was my favorite game of all time, dethroning the one and only Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. And this playthrough only cemented that for me. What a goddamn fucking good game this is. Janet, am I wrong?
Well, are you wrong about it being your favorite game? I hope
No, that it's a
not,
goddamn
'cause
good game. A goddamn good
Yeah, it's a
game.
great game. You know, playing it, it was interesting because for y'all it was a replay, and for me it was my first time finishing it because I had never finished it before. I had gotten to a little bit before like Atreus gets sick. Like I got like right before that because I had a little thing where you can open the doors,
Sure.
which I had to keep remembering what I saw. It was I don't know if you've ever like gone back to finish a game that you started and then put down for like many years, but I would like every few hours I'm like, actually guys, I have been here before as well. I'm sorry, we're not in new territory yet. And then finally it was new, and that was very exciting. But yeah, I loved it all the way through. I think I feel like it's a bit of a cliche to always describe masterpiece games like this, but I think it's just such a good marriage of gameplay and storytelling, and it just really feels like an experience. Like I think overall that is why I think it's such a standout game. Even from, you know, people in my chat immediately were like, oh, do you like this more than Horizon? And I'm like, well, I really love Horizon, so I might still like that more in a way, but this is a better game. Like it's not complicated to see that because I think it hits on so many levels. And I think too, the gameplay just feels so damn good throughout. It took me a good amount of hours to even start to see any complaints, which was definitely a challenge when I first started playing, where I'm like, what am I gonna like want differently or want to change, or what bothers me about this? Because everything was just felt so perfect for so long. And then eventually I found some stuff after, you know, the 80th troll and going into the dark every 2 seconds. We'll talk about that later.
God,
but I loved it, and
sequence?
it was yes.
Oh.
We have things to talk about. But overall, I loved it. I thought it was amazing, and obviously, as a longtime God of War fan too, it was super cool to get the blades. I already knew about the blades. That was the one spoiler I did have going in. But oh my god, like someone in my chat pointed this out. But literally, when you get them, and if you've played before, like it feels just like old times. I feel like a kid again, just murdering the shit out of people, fucking whipping it. I love to whip that shit. It was great. It was a really fun time.
Yeah, watching the review last night, you know, the review had very specific spoiler instructions, and both Tim and Jared hadn't beaten it because they didn't get copies early. And so I keep hinting around the one moment that my jaw was on the floor and I didn't see coming. And I say, like, it won't be this way for everybody from here on out. Like, once it's out in the wild, it'll be out there. There'll be spoilers. You'll see trophies. You'll understand more than I ever did. But, like, that is still such a master stroke for playing in the dark and not knowing, where it never even occurred to me that those were going to pop back up. And maybe that was a stupid thing to think about, but having been like the whatever God of War guy, and then being lost in the story and I thought being told so well and falling in love with what they were doing and how much I love Leviathan Axe, when there is that moment, right, where she's like, you got to go to hell. And he's like, I've been to a hell, not this hell. And then gets on the boat and fucking the Red Storm. And I mean, I tweeted about it yesterday, right? Like, I went back and rewatched it, right, of him and Athena and coming up on it. It's just like chills every time. Like, just such a fucking incredible thing. And then, yeah, I'll never forget that, Janet, walking out with them and just starting. It felt so different than Leviathan Axe. And it was just so...
It's the fact that it feels like you're playing PS2 again. Like, that was the thing that really hit for me in that moment. But when I played it the first time, walking out and then using it and then doing the exact same combos that you were doing on the PS2, I think part of the reason why you wouldn't expect the blades to be there is because it feels like a different God of War game. You know, the perspective is more over the shoulder, right? It's more close up as opposed to the, you know, top down crazy character action style of old God of War. And so I think part of us would ask, like, oh, how would this work? Even if the blades were in here, like, does that work for the kind of game this is? And then once you get your hands on it, it's like, oh shit, it does. Like, this is like they somehow made it work, right? This feels exactly how it should feel for this kind of game.
So, Bless, what about you? You know, I talked to you early on in your playthrough, and we were talking about what you thought of it. Where did you end up? Do you think, does God of War in 2022 live up to what it was in 2018?
For me, it's a few things, right? Like, my story with God of War has always been wanting to go back to replay it, because I played it the week it came out and then beat it and then didn't touch it since. And so, like, when I think back to God of War, I've always thought back to it as like this all molds together. Like, I remember key moments. I remember getting the blades. I remember, seeing the big turtle for the first time and, like, you know, fighting Balder.
Never forget the big turtle.
The big turtle was the thing that blew me away the most. Fighting Balder, all those moments I remembered, but, like, moment to moment, actually living with the game is a thing that has become more and more of a blur as I've gotten further away from it. And so going back to it, I've been curious about how I'd receive it a second time. And overall, like, the game is still amazing. Like, I still hold the game up there as, like, oh, this is GOAT status. Masterpiece is, like, once we get into the masterpiece conversation, I think it starts to become a, all right, how do you view a masterpiece? Like, this is a game that's a 5 out of 5 for me, right? If I was to review it on the KindaFunny scale,
Sure.
is it
and
a
he's
10
called the greatest of all time?
Get greatest of all time in terms of like in my top 100
like,
games I've ever
it's
played.
goated,
It's in
but
there.
yeah, oh man. I'm so excited because I honestly had a little bit of doubt myself too. I still land on it being a masterpiece because I just struggle to imagine many other games that I'd put above it, and I think that's one of the many hallmarks of what a masterpiece game is. But I will say it was more flawed than I expected it to be, and I now feel more confident that the next one will be even better. The only thing I'm hesitant on is how they're going to create some of those bigger set piece moments, because moving through the game, I'm like, okay, cool, some dope set pieces. Of course, again, this is iconic to the franchise, and it's only better here. But when they got to the end and they kind of had the big, like how they do that final boss battle and the way they kind of cue it up, I'm like, that part to me is so well done. Like that last, I guess, like 1/5 of the game, that I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to hit a high like that. I feel if I had to bet, I would guess they would, just because I think the studio is great at producing. But I'm like, what are they gonna do that's gonna be on par with that? I don't know, but I'm excited to see.
That's one of the things that, obviously we asked you to write in at patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames with your thoughts on your write-in. Kebab's write-in and said, of course, one of the questions I proposed is this still a masterpiece or was it ever? Kebab's wrote in and said, I didn't think that was the case originally, that it was a masterpiece. While the story is, of course, deeply personal and emotional, it lacked the huge scale battles I'd heard so much about in the Greek saga. It only had the lightning dragon fight and Freya resurrecting Thamur at the end. That said, it's not like the game has aged at all. It's still an incredible gameplay experience. And I understand that. Again, my history, if you're new around here, was that I've played the other God of Wars. I played God of War 1, 2, and 3. I played the PSP versions. And yes, obviously, especially God of War 3, right, is so huge, is such a thing, as you're fighting up Gaia's back, right? And we didn't know that. And it's the pan out as we climb up and then all this is just happening. I still thought for what 2018 was going for with the one camera, always on Kratos, I still felt that scale, but I understand that it wasn't the scale that you had seen in previous games. But like, fighting Baldur while on the fucking dragon, the end fights, even just the way you fight Baldur, right? Where, I infamously said when I came out of the first preview that it was the best superhero fight of all time. The first one, to get to the end, in the way you're just smashing through shit, falling through the air, slamming into the ground, like when they are at, at the end there, right, where at one point Kratos tumbles out of the air, I think it's with the world serpent, right, and he uses the shield like Captain America and lands and just along like the bridge out in the middle of the Lake of the Nines. It's like, I didn't feel like the game was hurting for scale. I thought there were these big moments, but I do get that there weren't huge enemies in that one.
I'm fine without that. I'm with you that I don't think the game is hurting for scale. Like for me, I come back to climbing the big giant in that one area and how that felt big, right? Like all the encounters with the other gods for me felt big, right? Fighting Baldur felt big. Even fighting was it Modi and Magni? Like that didn't necessarily feel on the scale of Baldur, but like that was still such a cool encounter, right? And I think in those moments it still holds that God of War energy to it.
Janet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like a lot of the scale in the older God of War games was a bit of artifice, and I love those games at the time. I don't know how much I'd like them replaying them, but it was a lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak. Yeah, like the master himself could tell us all about it, but yeah, like for me, it was a lot of, I mean, it's big and it looks cool and it's very gory like the old God of War games, but it's still, at the end of the day, you press circle, then you press X, then you hit square, then you tap square and someone's eyes coming out. And that's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy that, but I feel like they have those moments here while also like making it something that's enjoyable and engaging to play on a deeper level, in my opinion, to the previous ones. Sure, they don't have as many of like climbing things or whatever, but like, I think there was like plenty of scale to be had. Like it felt very akin to the older ones in that sense.
And to Kebab's write-in, right, where he starts off, I didn't think that was the case originally. Like I think that's a tiny bit of where I come from as well, where like at the time, if you told me to give it a score or whatever, I'd give it like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. But in terms of like my game of the year conversation that year, I think I still probably put Spider-Man 2018 above it. And also Super Smash Brothers, different genre, different conversation, all that stuff. But like, it was top 3, but it wasn't, I didn't play it and go, this is the greatest thing ever. And coming back to it, I think I've been reminded of a few of the reasons why. And then also I've been like, I think playing this game in 2022 with the contextualization of me and where I've gone on my gaming journey in terms of like playing way more action games and playing From Software stuff and playing Elden Ring
Sure.
and Bloodborne and Sekiro, and really understanding what I like out of combat systems and games that go for like a grounded, realistic setting. That combined with also playing Last of Us Part 1 right before this game, I think has put it in interesting context for me. Right, where playing God of War 2018 this time, this game feels like such a PlayStation first party game to like the greatest degree, and I think that is to its utmost benefit, and then also to a few of its deficits, where like playing as Kratos in this grounded like one shot, it's you and Atreus, you're having this personal journey, and then getting into combat, and it's literally me juggling characters like in the air. It's me hopping on top of a troll, like pressing R1 to make it slam on the ground. Like there's certain things where I'm like, this feels like it's an Insomniac game, and there's that dissonance between the crazy video game ass shit of it, but then also the grounded Last of Us style, over the shoulder personal story of it.
Juggling, I can totally let them have, and I enjoy juggling and having all that. When every time I got on a troll's back and would run it into people, I was like, "This is such a video game thing to do."
Oh my god, no, I love that. Like that's what I think is cool about this game. That I like that it has that combination. It's very peanut butter and chocolate to me, because it's like, to me, like what I've always loved about the older God of War games was the combat and the visuals. I mean, the stories were cool too, and that like if you like mythology, you get a kick out of like killing other gods or like fighting, you know, all those aspects of it are more intriguing than a mythos that I have no connection to, that's just brand new. But at the end of the day, like I wasn't, you know, very moved, I think, by a lot of what happened in the God of War series prior, even when there was like big deal stuff happening. But this had like both. I'm like, okay, I have these big combat fights that can be exhausting, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a just there's a lot of enemies type of way. And then I also have this story that's meaningful and this world that's interesting and dialogue barks that keep me engaged. Like I think for me, what I'm starting to realize with a game that has heavy dialogue and or a game that wants me to care about story, I know it's good if I don't want to put on a podcast or music and I feel like I gotta listen to everything and I want to hear every single thing that's being said at all times. And that's how I felt playing this. Like I was just totally locked in.
See, and some of the dialogue barks disturbed me a little bit. Mainly in like the parts where I'm trying to solve a puzzle and Atreus is like, "Oh, what's over here? Look up there." And I'm like, "Atreus, it's been 5 seconds of me trying to solve this puzzle. Let me at least think about it before you start giving me the hints." There are so many times where both Atreus and then Mimir did that for me, where like I put out a tweet of like, man, I'm glad there's not voice acting in Legend of Zelda, because for sure, like Link would be like, "Oh man, I wonder if I could push this thing over here." Link, shut up. Let me just do the thing myself. And then I deleted the tweet because it was mean. But yeah, there are parts where the barks. But
then you read it here,
but then I read it here.
It's had some valuable points.
Hey, it's a review episode. But yeah, I
liked
didn't always
it.
love the barks.
They can go earlier or whatever, but there was a missed playthrough where I was in Alheim, right? And it was the one where it's like, you know, the sticky stuff and you got to go through and hit him in the right, or not order, but knock all the like glowing parts out at once to open up the door to move the fungus or whatever. And it was one, where we went in there and there was like a whole bunch of them and I couldn't do them in one shot. And so then I was like, wait, am I overthinking this? And I'm like, wait, I was doing New Game Plus, so I had the blades, but I'm like, I didn't have the blades here before, like, and like as I'm running through different scenarios and like thinking about moves to do, Atreus walked over and he's like, "Oh, father, look at this," or whatever. And like he walked over from his perspective and I was like, right, that's all one color line. That's all one color line. Hit him that way. And it like retaught me exactly right here, Barrett. It retaught me this thing that I had forgotten about of whatever about it.
It took me a second too.
You guys keep dancing around more of the complaints. I think we're going to sit here and, you know, blow smoke forever on God of War 2018. I'm going to continue to talk about how much I love it. But Tori wrote in and I want to get there and then use this as a jumping off point for you guys and your airing of grievances. Tori wrote into patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames and said, while God of War 2018 felt like a masterpiece at the time, I think there are some things that stick out now on replay. While I love the game for its addicting Leviathan axe combat and riveting story, I think there are two things I have problems with. The biggest one is enemy variety. How many times are we going to slam the same pillar into a giant monster's head? The other one is the amount of backtracking. While it is changed up a bit, it still feels tedious to retrace our steps multiple times. I love this game, and from the looks of it, Ragnarok seems to offer a solution to these problems. Janet, let's go to you. You said you had some stuff that has stood out to you here on a 2022 playthrough, and after years of hearing about how great this game was it enemy variety and backtracking on your list?
Enemy variety definitely was. The backtracking I didn't mind. It definitely is very gamey. It's like, oh, this is a Metroidvania. Not literally, but kind of, you know, it has that that energy to it a little bit.
To jump in there, one of the things I was surprised about, right, is that I remember the backtracking, and I remember being fine with the backtracking when I reviewed it. It never got there. But like when we're playing this and I'm thinking about what's going on, and again, you know how much I hate replaying games. I wasn't looking forward to it. But one of the questions that came up that I want to jump in here is Barista Brand, who said, what is an aspect of the game that you took for granted in 2018 but appreciated more this time around? I have a list of them, from the score to collectibles to the chests to the armor to everything else. But the big one for me was, again, how great the dialogue is and how great the storytelling is, because in that second half of the game, when you are backtracking more than ever, I felt like, and it's something I heard myself say in the review from 2018, it's the fact that the questions I have were being answered during it. I wasn't running in silence. I wasn't getting a bunch of bullshit. I was getting explanation of like Mimir clicking in and like saying, or them figuring out that he had a hex on him, right? And that's why he couldn't talk about how to beat Boulder. I was like, oh, right. And like I'm so into that almost living cutscene that I didn't care that I was backtracking through something, let alone the fact that when you get to the Lake of the Nines the first time, it was so huge and overwhelming. I enjoyed being back there and kind of feeling like, oh, I know this place. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going.
Now I can open
that's how I felt about backtracking.
Get killed immediately also. And I think there is, you know, for backtracking, there is still a little bit of that excitement of there's a reason that the Metroidvania craft exists. Like there is an appeal to that. Now I can do this thing that I couldn't do before. Obviously there's ways that can be done well and ways that can be done poorly. I think God of War was totally fine with the backtracking, specifically because of the ease of traversal, like through using the fucking, you know, not Marvel Avengers table that is in every fucking game.
War
but, you know,
table,
like,
yeah.
Exactly. Just, you know, you fucking whip that shit and you go to whatever realm, or you can like go through the fucking magic door and all that. Like all that made it fine. And then you have the conversations on the boat. So I didn't have a beef with the backtracking.
And I think to talk about backtracking just a little bit more, like I also think the world is well designed enough to not make it easy to get lost. Each realm has its own vibes. Like when you're in the Lake of the Nine, like there are enough areas that feel like they stand alone and stick out, that it's not like, oh, where the fuck am I? Oh man, I've been backtracking. Where am I supposed to go? Like, you know exactly where you're supposed to go at all times for the most part. And yeah, like the lake, and then also Freya's house, like there are areas that feel like home base, and I think that's good for this kind of game, right? Like every single time I went back to Lake of the Nines, like when you're toward the end, when you fall off the dragon during that fight with Baldur, and you land on that platform on the lake, and it's like, oh, we're back here. Like it feels all interconnected in a really good way, and I think the way the world is designed and the levels are designed, I think really works for the backtracking in it.
Yeah, I guess one last thing on the kind of traversal of the area. Yeah, it is really well designed where you can kind of just figure it out, and you have your little compass at the top guiding you. But I think the map itself, I don't like the map. It's a child's placemat kind of map.
Sure.
And I would love to see literally anything better, because I feel like I never used it, and not only because I didn't need it, but also because when I tried to use it, I really didn't get much information out of it. Like you can't zoom in far enough. Like even just trying to orient, like the few times I did get light lost, it'd be like, oh, well, I know it's 800 feet away or it's 500 feet away, but is it inside or outside, and which side, you know, and then trying to orient like I felt like I could not use that map at all.
For hunting the platinum, I remember that being the same thing, where it was just like a general area. Like, all right.
Yeah, it's like, okay. Like, so that's definitely one of the gripes I have about the game. I think my number ones are the repetition of like set piece ideas and big moments. I grew tired of it after a while. Again, still love the game, and I think it kicked up because of what they did with story and other stuff in that last third or last fourth. But there was a point where I'm like, if I have to do one more elevator battle, I'm out. Also, I got so tired, which I now realize it's like an ability that enemies have, of the like blindedness where you're in the dark. The first time it happens, I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Like, we don't know what's going on. Like, it's stressful. It's like one of the first hard battles you have in was it Alfheim? Yeah. So it's like that is a thrilling moment where you're like, wow, this game's gonna give you a little bit of pushback. That was cool. Second time it happens with the two brothers, like, it's like, okay, this is kind of the same, but it's, you know, you got to put the shield up. It's a little different. And then the third, fourth, fifth time, and, you know, the fact that it can happen in scripted and in unscripted moments, I'm like, this is so boring and repetitive to me. It was cool when you first did it, but now it's worn thin. And I think that to me is God of War 2018's biggest weaknesses. Like, again, same thing with the elevator. The first time we had an elevator, I'm like, well, I know we're going to have an arena because it's an elevator. Second elevator, okay. Then there was like a third and maybe a fourth elevator. And to be honest, even though I like the boat and keeping the fire on the boat, is the boat not just a different elevator? Is it not just a boat sky elevator that you keep the flames on? It basically is. And the fact that I can see that so clearly was a downside to me, because I did feel like, okay, let me guess, it's this thing again. And I just felt like, to a degree, like there were a lot of amazing ideas introduced in this game, and enough to keep it fresh that ultimately I think it's still like a fantastic game. But there were those moments where I'm like, all right, I've seen this before and I know what you're going to do, and it's not interesting anymore to me.
It's understandable. Plus, what about you in terms of things that you said, you know, that you still give it like a 9 or a 10, but is it a masterpiece?
I think there are a few things for me that stuck out the second playthrough. I think going back to
Fighting
combat,
the dragon.
I love fighting the dragon actually.
Ooh, I hated it. So let me know when you get there, and I'll hated it. It.
No, for me it was, I think with the combat, the way I would describe the combat system in this game would be like, if you went into like, if somebody walked you into a kitchen and they're like, hey, here are all of these tools to like do whatever you want, and there are just fucking so many knives and spatulas and all this shit, as opposed to like, I don't know, man, hooking up with
Chef
Gordon
War,
Ramsay,
please.
Like if Gordon Ramsay like, you know, dapped you up and was like, yo, let me walk you into my like, you know, specifically defined kitchen so you can make the greatest steak possible, right?
Sure.
Like God of War feels like there are so many things in that combat system that it gets lost in itself a little bit, where it is, here's the Leviathan axe, right? Here's the special move with your Leviathan axe. You can throw this 2 different ways. Here's the Blades of Chaos. Here's the R1 move. Here's the R2 move. Here's the special R1 move. Here's the special R2 move. Here's the shield ability, right? Like here's you know, Kratos or Atreus can shoot arrows, but also if you hold it, he can shoot. He can summon beasts, and like the list goes on and on and on and on and on with like things that they pack into that combat system. And it reminds me a bit of what they've talked about leading into Ragnarok about the idea of playing with your food. And I think it's cool. I think, you know, there's something about that is appealing, you know, having all these different abilities at your disposal and being able to play around a little bit and always have an option of, all right, if this doesn't work, let me do this. All right, if this enemy doesn't like my Leviathan axe, let me throw the Leviathan axe and just use my fists. Like there's so much stuff you can do with that. But I think with that, I never found myself really thinking too hard about the combat as it was happening, in terms of trying to really dissect each enemy. Like I think they can go, I think there's way further that they can go with in terms of enemy design and making the combat system feel like specifically designed and specifically like, no, you need to get good at this combat system, because it's a difficult game, but it's not like it's difficult in a way that doesn't make you feel like you have to master the combat system. It just makes you feel like you got to get through every encounter by any means necessary. Whereas I look at games with similar sort of combat systems, or not similar sort of combat systems, but like similar flow of combat, right? Like a lot of From Software stuff, or like Neo, or like I played Wolong Fallen Dynasty this last weekend, the demo. And for a lot of these styles of combat, you know, I think they do a lot more with a lot less in terms of mechanics and in terms of like, you know, hey, like here's a very good parry system, and like you're gonna use this parry system and you're gonna master this parry system, and by the end of it you're gonna have so much fun with this thing, right? Like I think God of War just does too much with it sometimes.
Do you think though it's just your own, to a degree, paralysis of choice or way you're viewing it? Because the way I always looked at, especially God of War 2018, and again it was interesting to watch the review and where I mentioned similar things to this, like the game I feel like does give you tons of shit to try to digest and figure out what do you want to do. But for me, it was never, oh, you're going to use all these. It was, what are the 3 or 4 things you want to do? What do you want to build towards, right? I talk about in the review with Jared and Tim back in the day of like, I was going for a strength build, right? That's what I was pouring it into in the armor at the time that I was trying to make stronger, because I did just want to be Kratos and smash and tear things apart. I never used the shield to parry unless the actual fight enemy called for it, stuff like that. So I feel like that might be the creative design decision behind it, of let's give you a whole bunch of different things so you can kind of define how your Kratos feels.
I I feel that, but I also think that the enemy design kind of suffers for it, where I think there's so much you can do in terms of what we're talking about with enemy variety and enemy design that, hey, if you nailed it down to these few combat mechanics and made every enemy around that system, then those enemies get to shine way more.
Rather than be like, this guy's blue, so I can't use the axe on him. I have to punch him, or later on, you know, use the
like me, where I'm like, I use the axe for like 2 minutes, and then I'm like, wait, have I done any damage? I'm like, no, I haven't. Let's switch, because you get so like lost in it, and I think that's I'm kind of torn on what you have to say, Bless. Like, I actually also had complaints about elements of the combat system, specifically as it relates to leveling and unlocking skills. But to your point, I think the pro of making it a little bit mindless is that is kind of classic to the franchise, of you can just go in and button mash and wail. I do respect that, you know, your desire of something that's elevated above that. And I feel like they maybe push you towards that with some of the optional challenges of things like the Valkyries, which I did not kill and I probably never will, and stuff like that.
Just dial the difficulty down, get the trophy. No big deal.
Well, here's the thing. At the same time, like, what I'd like to see, Bless, is kind of like an in-between for me, because the one thing I didn't really like about the way the progression worked was, one, I'd never got a sense of, wait, what causes me to actually like level up? It's like, oh, it's tied to gear, but then how high does my gear go? Well, will I get new gear? I'm like, fine, let me level up this gear, because Barrett's like, you're too under leveled. I was like, let me level up my gear. And then like 2 seconds later, there was like, here's better gear you can just get. And I'm like, fuck, why'd I level this up? And then with the skills, same deal happened at one point where like Barrett came into my stream and was like, oh my God, you have like 10,000 XP. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't realize I got all that XP.
It was like almost 20k XP.
Check the VOD. I think it was 10, 15 max, but it was a lot. But the reason that I ran into that was, like, to your point, Bless, like, I just got to the point where when that happened, I just unlocked a fuck ton of stuff just to say I unlocked it. But what the drawback for me as a player was, I no longer was doing that thing where I'd look at a skill that I just got and be like, okay, cool. L1, okay, with this thing, it's like L1, and then you hold R2, and that's going to do this thing. And there were a few moves that I got to know really well, but towards the middle part of the game, I almost unlocked them like kind of too fast, where I'm like, well, I got like 8 new things, and I think I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing. And I didn't dislike the combat for that, but I would have liked a progression system that felt more intentional and easy to navigate and pick and choose, because at a certain point I felt like I was just buying stuff and stacking it up.
It's the too many slices situation, because I agree with you there in terms of the the menus, right? Where I'm talking to Brock and Sindri, and every single time I'm so happy they tell you when you can upgrade the Talon Bow or the Leviathan Axe or the Blades of Chaos, because let me tell you, when you talk to them, there's so many like, oh yeah, you can upgrade each of these, like your chest plate or this thing or that thing, right? Or like you can buy another or craft another chest plate, this thing or that thing, right? Or you can get a rune, or you can get that. It is the paralysis of choice in those situations. And yeah, like after I'd upgrade my Blades of Chaos or whatever, right? Like there are moments where, because there's so much, I'm like, all right, well, I got all this currency. Is this even the right time to upgrade these things? Should I just wait until I see you the next time? Will I be in the better place there? I don't think they give you good feedback for when you should be at the rate at which you should be upgrading all these different elements of your arsenal. I think you can get lost in that stuff quite a bit. But even going back to the idea of like the Valkyries and the harder bosses in the game, and those things those moments asking more of you as a player, I found that I had more frustration dying in this game than games that are way harder than this game, right? Like I don't necessarily love how Kratos moves a lot of the time in the combat. You know, like they have the quick dash and they have the roll if you double tap X, right? They have like, you know, Kratos as a character is like bulky, and he's not that agile.
He's a boofy boy.
He's a boofy boy, and a lot of the time I just didn't love controlling Kratos, and so I would die and I'm like, oh really, I gotta fight this guy over again, as opposed to like there are plenty of other. I was over the weekend when I was playing Wolong Fallen Dynasty, I got to the final boss of the demo, and when I tell you that I lost to that boss for like an hour straight, but I had fun each and every time I lost. Like I kept coming back for more every single time with joy in my face. Whereas like in God of War, going up that last elevator where you were fighting the two, I forget what they're called, but like the two guys that fly around and then like they activate the darkness so you can't see shit. Fighting them, I died maybe 5 or 6 times. And I was so done. I was so frustrated. You gotta be
a cheaper. Here's the thing. You're too good. You know, that's your problem. This is for basic bitches like me, where it's like, do you want to feel like you're doing a lot, but really you don't know what the fuck is going on because you haven't really thought about that much? That was where I lived. I was like, what we're fighting? I'm not doing melee combat. I'm hitting that ice beam and I'm fucking one-shotting these trolls, and I feel good about it. Like, it's cheap wins, but that's what I'm that's kind of what I'm used to in the franchise. It's like I can just whip it and kick ass, and I don't have to be that thoughtful. And I like that here, though, I get to be a little bit more thoughtful with the kind of movesets I'm pulling. But for me, as a player that maybe isn't as well, actually, frankly, like I'm not as good as combat as you are. Like you just have a better skill at like parrying and dodging and thinking about space and all that. Like I'm not running all those gears at once. The gear I'm running is what is the easiest way to get out of the situation. And for me, the fun is the ease. And I think there were so many things in this game that gave me that, with like, you know, Atreus's fucking wolves that he would bring out, and with the rune, and with like all these other elements. So at the end of the day, like that's why I think for me this combat really hit, because if I was better, I could probably do more easily, more fancifully. But also at the end of the day, like I can just fucking hit this rune and then hit my other rune, then switch out. And I liked having that godlike feeling, and that's a feeling that I expect to have when I approach a God of War game.
See, that's one of the things I fucked up this time around. Is I should have been like blessing and played it on Steam Deck, or I should have just started over, because I jumped in. I was like, I'll do New Game Plus, and it was like literally being. I was like, I'll do New Game Plus, and then I'm like, I don't like being frustrated in combat, so I'm just gonna play on normal as usual. And so I was doing it, but I was just fucking destroying everything. And then I had all my gear, so I didn't have to worry about upgrading anything. And I was like, this kind of sucks. Like, this isn't fun. Like, that's not the combat of God of War sucks. Removing all the breadcrumbs and carrots on the stick of what to do was like, oh well, yeah, I'm making great time on crushing the story, but like I'm missing out on all the things that were me going, oh well, this shoulder pad's better than that thing, and what do I want to do with the stats over there, blah blah. And back to Barista's question, right? Barista brand of like, you know, aspects you appreciated more. 100% that 100% I miss going through. Well, I missed it because it just felt like a more empty game, but going through and like, well, you know, having a reason every time to check in with Brock and Sindri, which I still went over and like would do the talk to them, but I wasn't upgrading everything and moving everything because it was already upgraded and ready to go. I was like, but by the time I realized that, was too damn late. It's like, I'm not restarting the fucking game to do it that way. What else? Anything else stood out for either of you that was like the complaint or the holdback here?
I didn't like that dragon fight, and I will admit that it was because I was a little dumb. I'm not gonna lie, because I didn't know what I was doing. But at the same time, I just thought it was such a weird choice that like, and sorry, I forget the names of all these items, but you have like that red thing you can throw to get like, to blow it up with the electricity.
The electricity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that thing. You get that, and they like show you like like you do that move once, and then they're like, okay, fight this dragon. And I just had no idea what I was supposed to do. And then when I was just like, I was streaming it, so like chat told me like, oh yeah, I think you gotta like do this. And at a certain point, when you're like, and this is how I hit some real low moments in this fight, we're like on screen, the text is just like, you gotta throw it in the mouth of the dragon. And I'm like, okay, cool. Also, man, I really am looking forward to the accessibility updates that are coming for the next game, because the subtitles and the text are so freaking tiny. Even when you max them out, they're still really small. But anyway, and then even when I found what to do, I just found the fight to be so antiquated in its design.
Again, this is another one that was like, so this is a video game. This is a PS2 like, video game.
When I think of, and this is like Kabab's comment about the scale, this feels like something that would happen in the old God of War games, but in a bad way, where it's like, oh, well, he's really big, and that's what's exciting, that he's big. Like, that's not interesting to me. It's like, okay, we got these classic, like, freaking waves that you step between, and I'm like, okay, now the electricity is gonna hit me, so I gotta roll out. I'm like, they dropped me some health, but they dropped it, like, right next to this guy's fucking feet, so every time I go up and I have to hit it, I get hit again. And then I don't even know if I died in this fight, but I just hated it. I hated the experience of it. It didn't do anything for me. Like, the build up for it did seem cool. Like, oh, we're gonna fight a dragon. That's fun. You know, it was cool when Mario did it. This is probably gonna be fun too. It wasn't. It did not hit. It was, I did not like anything about it. It felt such a dull design for like what's visually supposed to be a really interesting moment. But yeah, no. I was also bad at it, so I will give you that. But I think even if I was good at it, I'm like, what are we doing here? We're just like wailing on something, and it's just dull to me.
My dragon is named Atreus. Atreus is annoying for me for most of the game. I couldn't stand that kid. I fucking hated Atreus.
I never understood his perspective, but I'm willing to hear you out. What do you got here?
He's just annoying. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, he's a kid.
He's a kid.
Yeah, but like, kids don't have to be annoying. We've just played Last of Us Part 1. Ellie's great. Like, Atreus, when he has the turn. Like, first of all, for the first half of the game, before he even has the turn of being in annoying god mode, he's just so kiddie in a way I don't like. Oh, you know what? Too bad. Like, Come on, kid, pull it together. Like we got a serious thing we're doing
also,
here,
quick
and you're out here
aside,
being immature.
When that one dude was like, he's like, gods can do whatever they want. He's like, that's what I said to your mom before I fucked her. That shit was fucking crazy. I was like, the drama in this game is so rich. I'm just like mouth wide open watching these fucking cutscenes. They're so well done. Anyway, go on.
But
Why do you hate this child whose mom died? This orphan child.
When he gets into I'm a god mode and he like, you know, starts disrespecting his mom, starts kicking gods off of cliffs, starts being a piece of shit. I understand what they're doing with the story. I understand that that's necessary to the story and for the growth of both characters. I just found him annoying, and it wasn't helping with the bark thing as well, where like I'm trying to solve a puzzle and Atreus tells me the solution, and I'm like, boy, you're too smart for your own good. Let me solve this by myself, boy. I don't know. I just found him annoying.
You have him throw the arrows, and he's like, whatever. I love that part.
Oh my! He said whatever like 19
Even
times.
Though it was painful, but like, you know, it's funny. I felt like this was a bit of, I don't want to say karma, because I can kind of handle like whatever's narratively. Like, again, I was an English major. I read a bunch of dark shit. Like, I live in dark shit or whatever. Whatever, Greg. Okay, you and your fucking media degree from Mizzou. Anyway, so.
God damn.
Yeah, I mean, what?
The Mizzou catching this stray.
I'm sorry, am I wrong? Anyway, but
audio listeners, so like, I don't know what I did to offend her.
Okay,
lies.
Greg, don't fucking
lie. Go to the video version right now. Anyway, this was like one of my few breaking points in a game, where normally I don't mind doing stuff like okay, they're hamming it up. They want to make him unlikable. They want to make him an ass. You know, they want to really show that he's becoming like this piece of trash. But I'm like, oh man, it hurts so bad to have to like not just see it happen, I think, for his character and kind of, I think, get to have a moment where you think, shit, was Kratos right? I'm like, maybe he shouldn't have told this guy about this. He's right. He wasn't ready. I think they do such a good job of making you feel all of that. And it's not a good feeling to have. And it was a hard feeling for me to like have to work through. And I'm glad that it wasn't that long of a piece of a game. But it reminded me of like the stuff people would say for Last of Us 2, where they're like, I just can't handle it. It's so dark. And I'm like, I fucking love it. Like, I love how fucked up it is.
No, it's just annoying.
Like, it is annoying, but like, I think, but both of those things speak to the idea of creating visceral discomfort within the player for the purposes of storytelling. And I think it did a great job at that. It worked for that. And it wasn't that long of a portion of the game too. So I thought it was really well done.
This speaks back to what I was talking about at the top of the show, where I was like, oh, you really are playing a myth here, right? Where I think I like Atreus throughout the game. I think he's great. And my only complaint with the turn of I'm a god and now I'm a dick is that it's such a light switch, where it is like legitimately just like, oh, nothing matters. Fuck everybody, blah, 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 blah. And it was like playing it. I'm like, again, that's where I think I fall back to it's kind of a myth. We're getting characters and stereotypes very much on the surface for a lot of it, right? And so this is one of those things that's going to be a surface, bam, this is how we're going to deliver this and get you out of it and see, what the repercussions of the truth are and how they want to go with it. But I can understand where that would set you off and annoy you for a little bit less, but to throw the baby out with the bathwater, come on. Atreus is great.
I'm throwing that entire baby out. Because it wasn't even just like the I'm a god thing. It was just throughout, like he struck me as like a kid, like an annoying kid that would exist today. Like not even like a mythological
an annoying kid that would exist today.
Yeah,
I mean,
like he's like
that's
like
he's a kid. That's
real,
reminds me
man.
of
That's
kids,
the performance Sonny brought to this.
He reminds me of like a kid I would know from like who lived in the rich neighborhood in elementary school, and his name was Zach, and like Zach was just the fucking worst because he had it so good. Like that's what Atreus reminds me of. Like he's like an annoying kid in 2022. But yeah, like aside from that, like the one other thing I'll mention in terms of like feedback before we get into pure praise, is we should talk about more praise, is like I feel like the pacing of where the game starts off with in the first hour with that fight with Baldur in the superhero moment and all that stuff, the game starts off at such a high moment, and that is like one of the best moments of the game. And then it periodically sprinkles some of those in there, like the Kratos getting the blades, I think is probably one of those, and then the other for me is like the end. But I think for me, the game starting off in such a high place and then not really maintaining that throughout for me was kind of a reminder of like, oh yeah, okay, like this game punches you up front, but then it just goes into chill mode for a long time before before getting to the end, where I think they return to some of that greatness. I wish that was spread out a little bit more.
See, I don't think it's like in chill mode to its detriment. Like I think there are enough peaks in there, again, where I think maybe they're, I think and I want to actually put a minute on it, but I would think every so often you're given enough that is boom, it is the world serpent popping out for the first time. And like, what the fuck's this thing? And it's huge and it goes away. And then boom, it is like, you know, the black mist on the mountain. And then we're into a new, not dimension, you know what I mean? Realm. Thank you so much. Like, I feel like there's that stuff. And yeah, it might not always be a Baldur fight, right? But you do get the two nephews that show up that are both knockoff Thors. It's like, fuck, give me Thor, but then we're getting Thor, fine, whatever.
I think it's like none of them ever get to that Baldur moment. Like, they have moments where I think are cooler. And
that I agree with you.
That Baldur moment might legit be the best moment in the game, and they show their hand on it, I think, too early.
I think the ending is better than the first Baldur moment, but I get what you mean. I think it's just totally like knocks you on your ass in a way that like wakes you up to the game at the beginning of the game, and I think that is special in that it's one of the first like memories or moments where you're kind of like, oh man, this is a different kind of God of War game that I'm about to play. But yeah, I feel like there were a lot of big moments throughout. There's like the dream thing. There's when they like see the visions in hell. Like I felt like there's a lot of like memorable beats throughout the story. So I felt like there was plenty of like things that could mark that. Felt like they had big scale, but maybe not like in terms of mirroring both story and combat in the way that Baldur fight did. But I think there was other stuff. It was like there were quieter highs to it, I think.
You wanted to switch to some praise. I got that for you, Blessing. Don't worry about that in spades. But even beyond that, I have one question from the one and only Levy, who wrote into patreon.com/kindafunnygames that I would say is the most asked question on Patreon, let alone my Twitter. So when we come back from this ad break, I'm going to let you know all about it because, of course, you should be on patreon.com/kindafunnygames where you could watch us record the show live, just like Keegan Hill is, Piano Fish Tank is, and Anthony Corbett are. Corbett. If they're watching right now live, guess what? They can be part of the show by talking there. If you wanted to watch later, but you wanted it ad-free and you wanted to be part of the show and you wanted the post-show and you wanted to be part of the Xcast and Gamescast and all that jazz, you, of course, can get this show on patreon.com/kindafunnygames as well. But guess what, Jack? You're not on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. So here's a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. We've all heard of gut instinct, but have you ever heard of butt instinct? It's when your butt tells you it wants new undies. Listen to your butt. Luckily, we work with MeUndies, makers of the most buttery, soft, and sustainable undies, bralettes, and socks that exist. You know that I have lived my life MeUndies head to toe for the majority of the last couple years. I'm just all in on MeUndies because they are absolutely the most comfortable clothes I've ever put on my body. Available in sizes extra small to 4XL. They have new colors and prints dropping weekly, so there's always something exciting to check out. You can try their free to join membership for free shipping on every order and exclusive perks, like an item shipped to your door every month, secret sales, and early access to their newest stuff. MeUndies has a great offer for you guys out there. For any first-time purchasers, you get 20% off plus free shipping and returns. To get 20% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. Shout out to Shopify for sponsoring this episode. Shopify powers our very own kindafunny.com/store, our merch store. And we love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business, so upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere. Shopify unlocks the opportunity of your business to more people every day. Every 28 seconds, an entrepreneur like you makes their first sale on Shopify. Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale. You can reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps. It's more than a store. Shopify grows with you. You can go to shopify.com/KFgames, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/KFgames right now. That's shopify.com/KFgames, all lowercase.
Levy writes into patreon.com/kindafunnygames and says, my question is for Greg. Did your experience change at all now that you have Benjamin? I remember Corey Barlog saying in your spoiler cast that he often thought of his son while making the game and how it affected him. Just curious to know if there were any dialogues or messages that resonated with you more. Thanks. You guys are one of my favorite podcasts.
Are you going to tell Ben that he's a god, or, you know, just change your mind on it?
It's interesting, right? Because this has been asked so much on Patreon and then on Twitter. And even on Twitter, then people were chiming in of like, oh man, it changed my perspective having a kid and playing this game and da-da-da-da-da. For me, not one iota. And I didn't feel one thing. And I have wrestled with it a bit, right? Of is it, again, I don't like replaying things, and mainly it's because I play games for stories, and then I know what the story is, so is there just no thing to it. Going back and thinking about it, like I remember playing in 2018, and never once did I think Atreus was going to die during that. Like that was never a fear for me or something to that effect. And to take the same context and apply it to Last of Us Part 1, which we just played, that was a moment for me too of turning on Part 1, putting it on the big screen and being like, oh, right. Like, I know how devastating Sarah's death was, period, for anyone. Now that I'm a father and I'm playing this, will I feel that any harder? Will I cry or something like that? No, I didn't. And so it's a bit of since I know what's behind the curtain, since I know it's around that next turn and that bend, is that why they didn't hit? And would they have been different for me? But I don't even think that would have been it for God of War. And it's this weird one of, this is probably not where you'd expect a spoiler for this movie, but light spoilers for Clerks 3. I mean, literally the first montage in Clerks 3, there's a death in that. And or somebody is dead in that, right? And that hit me harder than either of these video game moments, not thinking of Ben, but thinking of Portillo, right? Because I'm still grieving his loss. And so there's all this weird, I don't know where this would go, but for God of War in particular, and replaying this in particular, I think it's interesting, I guess. And maybe if Ben was older and he was old enough to where I'm communicating with him and having, actual conversations and trying to teach him lessons. Because right now the lessons are, don't touch the Roomba. don't spin the oven knobs. That's where we're at right now. We're not talking about morality yet and what it is. And I don't know, God of War in 2018 and God of War in 2022, the light comparisons and real world examples I saw in it were more my father and me. Because for me in particular, everybody knows number one crane operator Greg Miller, Local 150 back in the suburbs of Chicago, right? But I remember never being scared of my father and never, thinking my dad was a bad guy or didn't talk to me or anything like that. But my mom was she was the one she worked at nights. So she was home during the day while my dad worked. And so when she'd go to work and dad would come home, I think I'd already been fed at that point. It might've just been bath time and pretty much bed. So mom was the caretaker. And I see that relationship for me with Atreus, mourning his mom, his dad now stepping in, and my dad not being a stranger, but not being the person I was with for every waking moment during a day, right? I knew my mom as that caretaker. As something goes wrong, you run to her. Whereas dad was obviously a parent. Obviously I loved him. Obviously he was not Kratos, but it was more, so
Greg's life.
Even right now where, we're coming up in 2 weeks on Ben's first birthday, 3 weeks, Ben's first birthday. I know the date, it's the math I can't get right. I don't look at that and see us in God of War. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be that kind of father to him. I'm going to be the oversharing, shut the fuck up dad, not I don't tell him anything because I want him to be protected. I will.
You're going to be a Joel, not a Kratos.
I'm not going to be a Joel. All right. I'll tell you right now. If Ben looks me in the eye and he's like, listen, dad, I know that I could save humanity, but they got to kill me. I'll be like, I don't agree with it, but you got to do your thing. I understand. I respect that.
But what if he didn't know that they had to kill him?
I'm not going to. He did know.
What if he did? Ellie know that?
Okay, here's the
thing.
Did not I don't think she did not know that they had to kill her, but no one ever talked to her about it.
That's honestly, that's my biggest. Sorry.
Yeah, but we do know though that she would have done it because she talks about later that my life could have meant something, Yeah.
Well, I think even
rough.
No, you just played Last of Us Part 1. I could have sworn there was some kind of conversation in the run up to it that wasn't as on the nose of if they got to kill me, they got to kill me. But I remember there being something even then that
they
was
had a conversation when I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but they had because I didn't actually finish playing Last of Us Part 1, though I have played Last of Us before. But the remake I haven't played through all the way. They had a conversation about the rations and things and talking about basically who would ever value the life of one for the lives of the many? Basically, it's kind of the conversation they had.
Gotcha.
And they were like, it's
totally. Also that end scene as well where she kind of points out all of the people that they had lost on that journey, where she alludes to please tell me that wasn't for nothing. And all that stuff, where she heavily implies if they needed to do whatever they needed to do to her.
Yeah, but we know that after the fact. I was still thinking there was something before that. And that's always been one of the things that Last of Us is a masterpiece and I love it and yada, 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 but always drives me fucking nuts is that they're like, we got her. All right, we knocked that guy out right into the thing. We won't have a conversation with any. Have the conversation at gunpoint if you want, but like lay it all out on the table for both the parties of like, hey, this was happening. But I understand that we wouldn't have had a thing. But I digress. Yeah, for this one in particular, like, no, this did not change anything for me. You know what I mean? And you know, I don't know. I think that works both. Removing it from it, like I still get as much out of the story as I did the first time. Like again, like I was last night, you know, watching the cutscene, just so beautiful of Kratos on that mountain taking it off and then handing the ashes to Atreus finally, right? And he didn't even ask for them, and then getting up there. No, you know, no, we do this together, son. It's like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean?
So fucking afraid to carry those ashes on that rickety ass bridge they crossed. I was like, nah, I'm good, Dad. I would have fucking passed that shit back. I do not want the pressure. I do not want the pressure at all.
Yeah, I could not be Kratos' son. He would give me anxiety. Like, no, you keep that bag because like I'm gonna be shaking, holding this thing across the bridge.
I never would have asked, to be honest. But yeah, oh my god, that bridge is so fucking big too. Think of how big Kratos is, and then how big
they've been through so much at this point. Nothing's
He's a boofy boy. He's a boofy boy.
He is a boofy boy.
Talking about things that we love about the game, though, like this game has some of the best final few hours of a video game ever. Like the way everything ramps up, the way the confrontation between, you know, Kratos and Boy and Baldur and Freya goes, like the moment to moment of that is just so good. The fight against Baldur at the end, I think, is so good. Baldur is such a great villain, and I wish
such a great performance.
Such a great performance. His there was a time playing last week where I was like, does this character model look better than all the other character models? Because he looks great in this game. I don't know what they did to him specifically, but his character design is just dope as hell. And in fact, I wish I saw more of him. Like, it's not that we didn't see enough of him, but like, this is a character I would have been down to, like, you know, invade more moments of the game.
And that's one of the things, again, where to talk about how much I love this game. And you know, those early hours with it were, you know, I'm sitting down playing the game that I say is my favorite game of all time, right? And I'm playing it again. And it was that thing of like, I'm kind of over checking everything. And then it was like, oh man, they're not talking as much as I remember. And oh my God. And then it is the way, like you're talking about it ramping up. And again, what I had said earlier in the show, right? From when Atreus gets sick to when he's now into God mode, and the way they keep presenting and ask the questions, like, I love that I wanted more Baldur, and I wanted more Freya, and I wanted more Brock and I wanted more of everybody, which makes it the perfect amount they use. Because you know what I mean? Where it's like, it is a big pop when Baldur shows back up. And when, especially what we just saw there, like the end of the game, right? When Freya and him are going at it and she's begging Kratos not to kill him or whatever. And like, you know, he's explaining, like, this whole scene, this whole ending is so well done. But to your point, Bless, yeah, like the final hours of this, like your entire, again, ramp up to this point are just so fucking good.
And it's the cutscenes, it's the sequence of events, because it is you going into the World Serpent and that being like, oh shit, all right, I'm just boating around in here.
And then you're inside and he's like, something's wrong. What's going on? Something's wrong. And then you just get spit out and you're in the air free falling. It's like, oh my God.
God, it's so good. Baldur walking out of the water. Like, that man didn't swim. That man was walking at the bottom of the of the lake, and just fucking walked, and him rising from the water, dope as hell. And then you get into even the moments after the fight where it is like, you know, Janet described the game, talking about the drama and how juicy the drama is, and it's just like, you know, juicy story beat after juicy story beat. Oh, where are the giants? Oh, there's this mural on the wall. Oh man, they were predicting everything that was happening, and then Kratos seeing like, you know, Atreus holding him dead in his hands, and then going and doing
that part, where he's like, and like Atreus like, come on, let's go, and he's like, yes, and I forget what he says, but like the thing blows, and you see a snake coming out of Atreus's mouth,
conveniently blanketed. You know, it's like, oh, let's not look at this part.
Atreus conveniently doesn't see that part.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how his mom saw it. That's why she covered it.
I can't wait for more lives in the next game. That's also what that kind of told me too. I'm like, oh my God, like this is awkward. I don't know.
Yeah, but then like, you know, the cast of characters too. Like, big shout out to the cast of characters. I don't think there's a character wasted in the game. And they keep the cast intimate too, which I like. And so whenever you do see Brock and Sindri, or you do see Freya, or you do see someone else, it's like, oh shit, all right, they're back. What do they have to say? Like,
and it's like that
ship so well.
At the moment we're talking, or just before, I guess, right before they go to spread the ashes, right, where Mimir's like, you can leave me behind, and Brock and Sindri show up, and they've got like the shit-eating grin on there, and it's like, this is like so fucking not goofy, but like we've done it. We've credits are rolling. Yeah, but I loved it because I loved them, and I loved that they were there for Kratos and Atreus, and they were just to walk in, and they didn't help them at all during the fucking fight, but they're there at the end of it to be like, hey, what's up? We'll hold the head. Let's go.
I feel like they knew I played this game 2 days before it was due because they were like every 2 seconds they're like, we're almost done, and I was like, yes, we are. But I think as cheesy as that is, and how like I know cliche game like that is, they even have the they don't do the turn back thing, but they basically do that with one of the brothers saying like, this is a good time to upgrade your gear because you might not have another chance. I was like, okay, cool, we're hitting that moment. But I think that all worked for like the very classic road trip that was this game. Like you weren't in a car, but this was a road trip video game, and I loved every second of that just holistic experience. Like I said, I do have some gripes here and there about this, that, and the other. Let me swap out my gear with the abilities also. Like, I feel like every game should fucking have that. So that'd be dope. But yeah, like it was just such a fun ride. For me, my favorite thing was the runes, honestly, and the different abilities you could have there and getting to experiment with them and finding new ones. And also like the puzzles. Again, I'm so weird in that even in a game like this that's so combat focused and so violent and so like it's got a war game, but I'm like, you know what I'm into? Fucking hitting these stones and unlocking this chest for something I don't need. Like that's what
dude, I love that when you see one, I'm like, oh, we're close. Okay, I gotta be looking for it now.
Let's just hang out and do. And I really love that element. Someone in my chat who I believe is both my community member and a community member here, their handles Don't Bash Ash, said they wish that you got to do those puzzles that Atreus got to do, which I kind of do too, but at the same time, I'm not a puzzle czar either, so I'm like, it sounds like this is shit I wouldn't have figured it out because I'm as dumb as Kratos is.
Yeah, he's reading riddles, and I'm like, I got no idea. And they're like, water. I was like, oh shit, all right. Fine.
But that would have been fun, and I'm excited to see what they do with like that puzzle element, because I think it was very solid. Obviously, it wasn't at the level of like what a puzzle game provides, but nor does it need to be. It's like a side dish, but it's like that really good side dish. It's like if you had like really fucking good mac and cheese and you're like, secretly I could just eat a bowl of this and just shovel it down. Like that's how I felt about the puzzles, and that's why like people keep asking me like, will I platinum it? And I'm like, probably, because I really like just getting shit. I don't need any of this, but I want to get it. I like the process of it.
I mean, if you want it to be like, again, so this game having so much, which can be a blessing, saying it's a detriment, right? But it is like, if you want it to be a checklist game, every map has the, how many things you found secret. What about this thing? There's question marks here. Like you can go through and just get the narrative where you can really get in there, and wade through all the other stuff to do.
Yeah, and I think the puzzles were just tough enough, but not too tough. Where it was for me as somebody I'm playing this through the second time, and I was just mainlining just so I can get that core story again. I would come across some of the rune puzzles of like, hit the 3 pots, and I'm like, I'd spend maybe 30 seconds. I'm like, all right, can I find these things? Yes. Okay, do it. Can I not find these things? All right, I'll just keep going. But if I was playing for the first time or at my own pace, right, I know I'll spend the time doing that. And I've always appreciated the puzzle design there.
I asked again, is it a masterpiece? Was it ever a masterpiece? Julian, the gluten-free gamer, says it is on patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames and wrote this. 4 years later, a game has yet to surpass the weight of the combat that God of War was able to achieve. From the Axe 30 or specials, a non-shooter has not been able to capture the feeling. Maybe Elden Ring, but not by much. The team creating the one-shot campaign with seamless transitions hasn't been replicated to my knowledge. A franchise has not reimagined its main character and gameplay the way Corey and team did. They took a faded Sony staple and humanized a god in a simple story about loss and the bond of father and son. And then great trophy list is what they had. Julian added there, which of course, what a trophy list. What a fun platinum this was to go. Maybe some of the Odin's Ravens, you're like, I don't really feel like fucking with, but you got there. And then the Valkyries, of course, but again, just turn the difficulty down.
The Odin's Ravens, I got a couple of those, and it's like 8 of 82. I'm like, this is going to be a problem for later.
I don't need to worry about this right now.
I'm like, oh man, I saw my first one like 8 hours in. I'm guessing I missed like 20 of them.
Thousands of them. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
To talk about the one shot though, real quick. The thing I noticed this time around that I don't think I really appreciated as much the first time is the amount of scale this game achieves. And I think that is accompanied by the one shot where it is, you're on the ground with Kratos and Atreus the entire time, right? You're with them, but being with them and then coming across the giant that you have to climb, for example, or the world serpent, or like even riding around inside the world serpent. There are so many moments where everything feels bigger than life. And I think they achieved that so well. Like the one other game that I would think that achieves it on that level would be Shadow Colossus. When I played Shadow Colossus on the first time, for the first time on PS2, where I encountered the first Colossus, and I'm like, how the fuck is that thing that big, right? Like God of War for me does that so many times, where I'm like, I can't believe that like they've created a world that feels this fleshed out and gigantic, and like you see the turtle and the turtle's huge, right? Or like you fall from the dragon and you're on the lake again. Like the way that they interconnect everything, I think really uplifts how big everything really feels in the game.
100%. So it leaves us with our re-review here that we all still love God of War, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrible video game. Just kidding. I love it.
Shut up. Just don't Miles Morales this, all right? Don't let this be your cross to bear the rest of your career around here. The other question I asked the audience was hopes for Ragnarok, of course. Ragnarok coming up very fast in November. But I want to get them involved. I want to get you involved. So I want to start with you, Janet, of course. First time finishing this one. You're ready for Ragnarok now. What are your hopes for Ragnarok?
Do you want me to list all of them or just one or some?
How many you got? You got thousands? What do you got?
Probably like 6 or 7 or something. I could list them
Go
fast.
for it. We can
like,
jump off
okay.
that, whatever you want.
A lot of them are ones I've already alluded to, but I would want transmog where I can swap armor with, the stats of one armor piece for another. I would like to see a revamp to the skill/general leveling system, both in clarity and just like in how it rolls out and the pacing of that. Better map. Really specific, but I wouldn't say better climbing, but like there were some times where I'm like, which way do I go here? So maybe like slight improvements to climbing. And also I want to fight on the rocks a few times. Like I remember pulling down enemies like in old school God of War. I feel like,
trust me, Janet, you don't actually want that.
I don't want it a lot. I know it wasn't like that way, but I would have liked at least that to happen once. I'm like, replace one of the elevator fights with like 10 seconds of that. I don't know. More diversity in the larger deal combat scenarios, aka, the elevators. I want less elevators. I don't want to be in the fucking dark every 2 seconds. And I think that might be the bulk of everything that I have, but those are probably like my biggest complaints. So I think, and bigger subtitles, but I'm sure they've made the size of that much larger than before.
Sure their accessibility suite will be on par now.
I'm guessing it's going to be like fire.
Happened.
But, I'm very much excited. And it was funny because I left it on default for a while because even the way they describe the subtitle size is confusing. It lumps it in with text size and describes it as also like UI elements. And I'm like, well, I don't really want gigantic UI elements. I just want really big text. So I like left it at like the base 0 for a while. And when I tweeted a screenshot with one of the text things, and everyone the replies were like, what is this? Like, I can't even read this. And I have like perfect vision. I'm like, yeah, it's like super, super fucking tiny. But yeah, that's my short list of things I want.
Bless, when you think about Ragnarok, what are your hopes for it?
I'm hoping for more evolution than iteration. It being 4 years since God of War 2018, I think the easy thing to do would just be to make more of that. But I'd want to see Ragnarok elevate like the combat system, right? I'd want for them to find more ways to make the world feel vibrant in different ways. Like they mentioned that this one's going to be in this one you can explore all the realms as opposed to the handful of realms that you could in God of War 2018. And so I think that's going to give them the chance to go pretty crazy with it. And in that last trailer we saw at the State of Play last week, like just from that trailer alone, it seems like there's a lot of different shit that's going on in God of War Ragnarok that we're going to encounter. And so like I think they're already going to do that, but I hope they're able to stick the landing with it. And I think my other thing is for this game to feel standalone, right? Like obviously it's a sequel, obviously it's picking up from where God of War 2018 left off, but I want to finish Ragnarok and appreciate it as its own package as opposed to just looking at it as more God of War 2018, if that makes sense, right? Like the easiest
100%.
example I could make would be Last of Us Part 1 to Part 2, where Last of Us Part 2 I think we appreciate in a different way than we appreciate Last of Us Part 1, even though it's living up to the quote unquote sequelization of it. So I'd want to see ways that Ragnarok could feel unique and special on its own right.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, my hope for Ragnarok is that it does not feel like more of God of War 2018, which obviously I want that to feel like it's more of 20, but you know what I mean? Where it doesn't just feel like this is 1.5. I want it to feel like I'm having these noticeable changes in what they've done and where they've gone from it. And back to everything we've said on this one, right? Of like God of War in the re-review, like the one thing that we called out, or it was Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer called out the one shot, right? And again, playing through it, it resonated so much with me in a way that it didn't, but it did for Jared Petty, where he talked about, or no, it's him in the original review from 2018, where the one shot means that you're obstructing faces and they're showing us something very specific if they want us to see something very specific. And the amount of times on this playthrough, you know, it would turn while something happened in Revelation, and watching Kratos' eyes and like him be, you know, him be on his heels, but trying to act like he wasn't with what, Atreus had just put together or what Mimir had just introduced to the equation. Like, I loved that. And I love the storytelling that happens. And I love the big things. For me, it would be not repetition. I don't think is right. And I don't think it's backtracking, but I do want the moments that are colored by those conversations to feel more, okay, cool. It is more unique. It is more at a glance. I know what I'm doing and where I am, rather than this one where it was, what flavor of Draugr am I fighting? And then it's like, okay, it's this guy again. And I've seen this enemy type before, but now he's a fire dude or an ice dude of it. Like, I hope that, yeah, there's more identity there in terms of what's happening, like you're talking about, right? That does make it feel the way it felt in 2018. And I think now we play it and you're like, oh, well, this I would have changed and I would have done that. Whereas I think that, like, yeah, what a 2022 version of this is going to feel like will be hopefully incredibly different. And, you know, you watch this trailer and it's just outrageous if they can deliver on all this. The one response I'd like to hear that I want to make sure we got in for hopes and dreams for Ragnarok comes from Kebabs, who wrote into patreon.com/kindafunnygames and gave me 3 that I liked. For the mural, I think Kratos dies in Atreus' arms, but as a form of self-sacrifice. We were talking about this before, right? We're at the top of it of like Kratos saying, if it meant you living, not Atreus murdering him. This has to happen midway through the game. The death is where Atreus births the world serpent, and we know that he fights Thor so hard that he gets set back in time, which is during Ragnarok. I also find it curious that Kratos lacks the red tattoos in the mural. His next part of this is, I don't think Kratos is the world serpent, but Atreus gives him Kratos' visage in his memory. And then the final one here I really liked. The fight with Thor is, after some early tutorial gameplay, the opening of the game, similar to Baldur in 2018. After killing him, Kratos takes Thor's hammer, but in exchange, Atreus holds Kratos' axe, since it was originally his mother's. All footage of Kratos using his axe after Thor's fight is fake and is using the mechanics from 2018 to trick us. I like that one a lot.
Sure.
I like that a lot. It's more the thing of like, I don't know how, once I get Thor's hammer, I want to be fucking using Thor's hammer. I don't want to then switch places with Atreus and be using the Leviathan again.
That's one of the things I've been trying to work out in my brain of like, all right, how do they get us Mjolnir, right? And if it is the switcheroo of Kratos dies and we pick up as Atreus, is Atreus's key weapons, are they going to be Mjolnir and his bow and arrow, right? Could that be the way to do it? And like, is there going to be an older Atreus, right? It was with this like time travel situation. Is that how they make it work? Because like looking at little Atreus and imagine him with Mjolnir in his hand for some reason makes me laugh.
Well, remember, he's older now. He's a teenager.
Looking at teenage little Atreus with Mjolnir in his hand cracks me up.
Yeah, he's still small though, Greg. Like,
but he's older.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I like the idea of it being like spoofed trailer footage to kind of get around the fact that Kratos actually isn't using the Leviathan axe. But then I go back to the thing that Barrett just had of like plenty of marketing material that has Kratos holding the axe. Like, of course they can do that. Like that, Last of Us got away with like switching up so much on us in the final game that it wouldn't be crazy if they made it happen. But I would love for us to like after the first 5 minutes, boom, you never use the Leviathan axe as Kratos again.
That'd be insane.
Yeah, all this marketing material is out there with Kratos with it would be hilarious.
I mean, they don't need to worry about it, right? Like, game's gonna sell, and I don't think it would sell more because of Mjolnir. And I think people would be just stoked for more God of War. So we don't have to wait long, ladies and gentlemen. November 9th, 2022 is right around the corner. For now, though, I want to talk about this week in PlayStation. Blessing, what happened this week in PlayStation?
Let me tell you, PSVR 2 doesn't have backwards compatibility for PSVR games.
If we were in the studio, I'd do a spit take right there, but I'm not going to do it in my own house because then I have to clean it up.
Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed this? This comes from Jenny.
Oh, Blessing, I think you said this a few times.
I said this quite a few times. This comes from Jenny at GameSpot. PSVR 2 is Sony's upcoming VR headset, and unfortunately, players won't be able to launch original PSVR games using the new product. In an episode of the official PlayStation podcast, first spotted by Nibel, SVP of Platform Experiences Hideaki Nishino said explicitly that there will be no backwards compatibility for PSVR games on the PSVR 2. Quote, PSVR games are not compatible with PSVR 2 because PSVR 2 is designed to truly deliver a next generation VR experience, said Nishino. Quote, PSVR 2 has much more advanced features like all new controller haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, inside-out tracking, eye tracking, and 3D audio. This means that developing games for PSVR 2 requires a whole different approach than the original PlayStation VR. End quote. Is this a deal breaker?
What?
Is this a deal breaker for PSVR 2?
It is not a deal breaker. However, I do think it's going to hamper enthusiasm on it.
Yeah.
Especially at launch, where I know they're, we're going to have more than 20 launch. All right, we're really going to have 20 more. What are the games really going to be? I think it would have been such a, not by any stretch of the imagination, no brainer. But what a nice box quote and way to promote it, right? Of like 20 games at launch, and all, we've gone through the rigmarole. And even if it's, we have 10 games that have been patched that they are now using the inside out tracking, not the PlayStation Eye looking for the move wands, that be it. But really what you're going to get now is a bunch of double dips, right? Where, oh, cool, Beat Saber is going to be one of these, and it's the Beat Saber PS2 VR2 edition, which is just the fact that it'll have better tracking because it's using inside out. And I'm sure if they're smart, you'll have a Moss complete collection bundle for chapters 1 and 2 that are set to go in the exact same way.
That's the thing that I'm holding out hope for, right? Like there are so many people online that were really upset when they announced this, and I think I'm holding out for is like hearing if not they're gonna have a free update situation for when the Beat Saber PSVR 2 version comes out. I know it's PlayStation, and so it's kind of hard to like really have that hope because PlayStation has proven that they will charge you if they can charge you. But like this,
my prediction on it is no, they won't. There will not be anything like that. There won't be the free update paths or any of that, because I think VR is already such a small market.
Yep.
And the audience is already so dedicated. Like we've talked about it a million times, right? Of like the attach rate of PlayStation VR, it wasn't ridiculous. So if you bought it, you were the people it seemed to be that are on the subreddit or listening to PS I Love You and buying games for it and being excited for it and wanting to support it. And I think they're gonna rely on that of, all right, cool. Well, here's Beat Saber. Here's both chapters of The Walking Dead or whatever they're gonna end up doing. That's a bad example because Walking Dead's already PSVR 2, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's the bummer of it, because like you look at launch, right? And they're gonna they talked about the launch lineup they have, but yeah, if there's 20 games for PSVR 2 at launch, guess what? Like they're gonna want to make more money off of that, and if they can charge for ports of Beat Saber and Tetris Effect and the list goes on of games that have already existed on PlayStation VR.
And it's that thing where they can, and like the people who will be the new adopters who are like, oh man, this looks better, and I was excited about PlayStation VR. I was interested in PlayStation VR. Now I'm ready to pull the trigger and do this thing. It's got a better headset, yada, yada, yada. And I know, Beat Saber and Tetris Effect and Moss Chapter 1 and 2 are so great. Why not do it? Why not grab them?
I mean, I imagine we'll see, well, I hope that we'll see maybe just some of these in PS Plus. But yeah, like nice. Where it's technically not free because you pay for the service, but close enough. The only like positive thing I see from this is not having to have the awkward half in, half out of a lot of these sort of trying to like make things easier for the user or cheaper for the user that end up just being annoying. Like even with PSVR 1, like I had to buy, I mean, technically you don't have to buy it, but if you want to be able to play all the games, you would need both the controller, the standard controller, and the wands. And I know some people had the wands from when they had them before, but I didn't. So I had to go out and freaking buy those wands specific, like, and I just personally hate having to use old hardware. I don't mind getting to use old hardware on new stuff, but I don't like having to use old hardware on new stuff. And the idea of like PSVR 2 compatible, but you're going to need a camera and you're going to need the wand, like, you know what? I'm okay leaving it in that sense. Obviously, it is a big disappointment in terms of the library, though, and the value.
1000% the reason why like this isn't happening, right? And that's why I've been predicting this isn't happening, because like to make PSVR 2 compatible with PSVR 1 games, you would need a PlayStation camera, you would need Move controllers, you would need a DualShock 4, not a DualSense because the DualSense doesn't have the backlight, right? Like all the PSVR 1 games use that stuff. And so like for PlayStation who's trying to push the PS5 hardware, do you really want to communicate to people that, hey, you know, this game that you want to play that was on PSVR 1 that like you want to buy the PSVR 1 version for, oh, you need all of this hardware. Like that is, I think that would be.
But you see, I think you're going the wrong way with it, where I think the hope, as far flung as it was with this, was the idea of being able to patch in, okay, cool, it's looking for this version, it's looking for that, not the hardware side. Instead, okay, we're going to go in and tell this all the stuff that you're looking for, the inside out tracking and whatever.
Yeah, and
especially if you already had that for Quest 2, which you do.
But that wouldn't be true compatibility though. That'd still be some version of porting it over. So like
And that's my
Yeah,
thing
go
is like I don't think they would count that as backwards compatibility, and I think you're going to get those versions, but like those versions aren't going to be ported from PSVR 1. They're going to be ported from Oculus and other VR platforms that have the inside out tracking. And so for them, they're going to be new versions, and that's where I come back to. Oh man, if only you had smart delivery, or if only you had a way to give people who already own these games these versions for free. I think that would be the best case scenario. But again, we're talking about PlayStation, and we're talking about there's an opportunity to make money here. So if you can sell Beat Saber Director's Cut on PlayStation VR 2, or like Moss the Definitive Edition and all these Definitive Editions as PSVR 2 versions, and promote the fact that they look better, they run better, they control better, all this stuff, I think they're probably going to do it, which is a bummer on the consumer end. But hey, what are you going to do?
Did you guys see the truck outside my house by chance?
No.
Okay,
No.
good.
What kind
Didn't
of truck
ignore
was it?
me. It's
Bruce is
we
like
have-
running great diversion. You know what I mean? Anything can
we
happen
have,
right now. We're looking at her.
We have like a fruit truck that comes. It's like fruit and like a couple other things like tortillas and stuff that comes by, and it plays La Cucaracha on
Beautiful.
the horn.
Oh yeah,
as it
we've
comes
heard
by.
it before.
Yeah.
So this isn't a delivery. This is just like they're posting up outside and selling.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like the
Gotcha.
ice cream truck, but
Yeah.
with produce and other goods.
Now the tortillas, you're just buying the packaged of tortillas, or do they have like tacos or burritos coming out of it?
And now it's just like packages. It's like almost like a on wheels fruit, almost like a little market, I guess, kind of vibe, right? It's like
Okay.
that, tortillas, limes, stuff like that. And then yeah, here's Bruce, who somehow was in this room the entire time and started lightly yelling throughout the recording. So,
Trapped. I
yeah,
don't
think
care
she's
about Joel
okay.
versus Kratos.
Yeah, she looks really sad here actually though, but she's fine. She's hanging out.
Oh, she's
Having a
sleepy.
great time.
Yeah.
She's sad about backwards compatibility. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of PlayStation hardware, Sony could launch a new PS5 with a detachable disc drive.
Oh my
This comes from
God.
Tom Henderson at
I
Insider
hate it here,
Gaming.
bless.
The PS5 is set to get a unique overhaul in the middle of FY 2023. FY stands for fiscal year. With the new console launching around September 2023, says sources. Sources familiar with Sony's plans have shared details under the condition of anonymity, outlining the next iteration of the PS5. It's been suggested that this new console will completely replace the A, B, and C chassis that has been in production since the console's launch. The console, currently named the D chassis, PlayStation 5, will have almost identical hardware to the existing consoles already on the market. The most surprising new feature of the PS5, though, is that the console will have a detachable disc drive. The detachable disc drive will be connected to the PS5 using an extra USB-C port on the back of the console. Sources have implied that although the new detachable disc drive is portable, it will not ruin the aesthetics of the console and will attach to it without looking external, presumably meaning the new PS5 will look similar to the existing model. Janet, why do you think they're doing this?
I don't know. People that have regrets maybe from not having the disc, and they're like, what do I do with my discs? And I don't want to have to buy the PS5 that has the disc, so this is kind of an option for those users, I guess. But yeah, it's very odd. I feel like just take your L, you know what I mean? Like I just yeah, and I have no idea. Like I know you guys, talked about it briefly on KFGD, which Greg, I think you led that episode.
Sure did.
But what this is gonna like look like, I think too, it's funny because
It's gonna look
PS5's
ugly
already,
as fuck. It's
the
gonna
PS5's
look
already
like
such a
this. Barrett's still got the thing ready.
Okay.
It's gonna look like the
What is-
Xbox
what am I
360
looking at
with an
here? This-
HD DVD drive stacked on top of it.
Barrett, can you pull up the GameCube that has that thing stacked underneath
Oh,
it? It's like
God, no.
you know
The
what
Game
I'm
Boy
talking about,
Advance?
right?
I can't
Oh,
look
yeah.
at that again.
Yes.
Can you bring up the N64 DD?
No, that's.
Oh, and then also, can you pick up the Sega?
No, okay, all right.
the-
all right,
The
we're
Sega
good.
Sega
thing that
CD,
stacks?
the
Yes.
32X.
I think the
So, I'd
Xbox
like you to bring up the-
360 HD DVD does a good enough job showcasing what this will probably look like.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Courtney.
don't know why you feel the need to deny us this request, but
Yeah, we have a lot of
I
You
You
will
figure the
respect it
idea here
begrudgingly.
would
How
have
often
to
do we
be
ask you for things, Barrett?
what? Like you figure the idea here is that if this is true and really happening, it would just be the idea of like, let's get PlayStation 5 down to one SKU. Let's get this to where we're making one thing, where we're not splitting, trying to decide if you want M&Ms or peanut M&Ms. You just get M&Ms and you can add the peanuts later if you want. Like, I would
Oh, yeah.
imagine that's it in this console shortage world we live in, right? That it's just, yeah, fuck it. Let's get it down to one thing. We sell one PlayStation 5 and then there's an ad on there if people want it.
Here's something then that begs the question of, do you think PlayStation 6 is going to be digital only, and maybe they sell like a box, or they send you a box if you feel like you want a box for the drive, for the discs?
They send you a box?
The disc
Yeah,
drive.
I mean the detachable disc drive. Like, do you think
Gotcha,
this is if what you're saying is true,
I
which
think
is probably the most
my
likely
thought
thing
would
of
be
trying to
this.
move into the digital?
get AR. Don't treat me like you treat Bruce. Don't be yelling at me. All right. I would think, yeah, it's part of that, right? Where it's probably
I would never
let's
yell
get
at
it to one
Bruce.
SKU because that's easier to produce. We're also seeing statistics, and we know that COVID moved everybody to digital faster than we already were, and so digital is now the majority. And then you look down the line of what a PlayStation 6 will be. I think it'll be all digital. I don't even think they'll worry about the box because frankly, I just don't see this being successful. And I imagine PlayStation doesn't either. I imagine you push everybody to a digital SKU. It exists. You can buy it, and then if you want to, you can buy the disc drive. And people start going, oh, that's ugly, and it's more money, and you know what? I won't do it. Or they get it and they never use it.
The SKU they had, it was ugly and it was more money. Like I have that SKU, and it is uglier, and it was more money.
My thing is, I think this is the only way you get around it, because I don't think you can go, and who knows by the time the PS6 comes out. But as of now, I don't think you can go all the way digital for everybody in the world. There still exist pockets of people that don't have internet access that way. But it's PlayStation. If you want to get it down to one SKU, because maybe the digital SKUs are way outselling the disc drive SKUs. I think the way you do it probably is, like let's add another USB port and then add the USB, whatever we call it, the detachable drive, for people who really need that physical drive. I think I could see this being the way the PS6 rolls out, for that reason. But who knows where we'll be in the.
We'll see what the success they find with it, right? Of what the detachable drive does for it.
Exactly.
And maybe it'll be backwards compatible with the PlayStation 6.
God. They just add additional drives. Obviously, it's not how technology works. You can get all the drives and stack them and have every PlayStation console available, and you just plug it in. Like every disc could work on it.
That'd be hilarious if that was the way they got around the PlayStation 3.
It's like how they have the fat PS3. It's like, what about the fat modded PS5? It's like you just keep piling stuff on.
They're like, this. What's the thing that the PS3 has that they say makes the development difficult?
The cell engine, the
cell processor. Yeah, they have
processor.
like a PS3 disk drive and put a cell processor in there.
I mean, at this point, aren't we just talking about PCs now, though, as well? It just comes back. You just start modding and adding shit onto it until it's more powerful than anything you could imagine, and then you still don't even play the game, so it doesn't really matter. But it's nice to have.
Circle. Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Has PlayStation State of Play found its groove? I asked this because last week the PlayStation State of Play happened.
I fell for it.
You fell for it.
Yeah. I fell for it.
We got a recap here for you. Of course, we got Tekken 8 with a stay tuned sign. They didn't tell us the exact date. I want the exact date because I'm really excited for Tekken 8. They told us about Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition for PSVR 2. That's coming 2023. They talked about DeMeo. That's a tabletop RPG PSVR 2 game. We got a trailer for Like a Dragon Ishin. That's the next game in the Yakuza series. It's a spinoff. It looks pretty cool. It's coming February 2023. We got a trailer for Hogwarts Legacy. We got a game called Pacific Drive coming from an indie studio called Ironwood. That's coming 2023. And they call it a roguelike. A roguelike. It's a driving game where you were doing it in runs. PlayStation Stars got a whole thing. It's coming late September in Asia, North America in the weeks to follow. It is free to join. Of course, that's a digital collectible thing, but not the non-fungible ones.
Of course, that's the digital collectible thing.
Yeah,
fucking PlayStation Stars.
It's the fungible digital collectibles. It's the fungible ones. Sin Duality got a trailer. That's the PvE game coming from Bandai Namco. We got a trailer for the PlayStation 5 console exclusive Stellar Blade, formerly known as Project Eve. That game still looks cool. We got a PS5 console exclusive trailer for Rise of the Ronin. That's coming from Team Ninja. That's a really cool action RPG, and that's coming in 2024. And then we got that dope ass trailer for God of War Ragnarok, along with the announcement of a DualSense controller coming with it. Is State of Play good now? Can I trust these things? Can I get excited for these things now? It's been 2 in a row.
You're going to get burned eventually, period. End of statement. But I feel like they've got a good grasp of what it is. And I think we have a good grasp of what it is, right? Like last State of Play was like the banger one. But this one was like, these games aren't all, I mean, ending on God of War Ragnarok was awesome. It was also terrifying when they were like, God of War Ragnarok, there's a new controller. I was like, do not end the fucking State of Play with a controller. But outside of that, like, there's enough announcements in here that are exciting and interesting, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like I'm super in for Like a Dragon. I'm stoked for that. And then Rise of Ronin too, where I was like, oh, that looks awesome too. Like those are cool things to have on my radar. And then everybody else can pick and choose what they want from it. But I enjoyed myself and thought the games they showed were interesting. I thought they did a bad job for PlayStation VR 2. I didn't think Galaxy's Edge and Demeo were like the ones to really be like, this thing's coming and it's hot. Especially because the next day then was the hands-on stuff where they had seen new stuff from Horizon. They had also played this, whatever else Tam talked about. I forget now because it's been a long show. But I don't know. Yeah, I enjoy the State of Play. And I think if you keep your expectations set right around here, you're going to have a good time.
Janet, you agree?
I think it's fine. Like, it found its grooves a little strong. I mean, I think it found its groove in the sense that they're established on what they are, and I think this does have a good blend of like bigger titles in terms of like, I mean, frankly, budget and marketing. This is pretty much how we couch big versus like smaller things. So it has a good blend of that, but honestly, this state of play didn't, I don't know, I wasn't super moved by it. It was interesting because it was the same day as Nintendo's Direct, which I also found like not that exciting, but I found this one less exciting than the Nintendo one.
Really?
So,
You're farming?
and that,
You love farming?
and we can argue that it's cause, well, if you love tech, you know, it's not to put you on blast, but you know, it's like I get that there
Wow.
were things that some people might get really excited
Obviously,
about.
you didn't watch
I have,
Tekken Bloodline on Netflix.
you know what? I didn't. That's a gap I have, and I'll be honest, I have no intention of filling it. So
It's okay.
it is what it
Most
is.
people don't have any intention of watching Tekken Bloodline.
Yeah.
I liked it, but the world didn't.
But I will say, you know, for people like, I have a lot of like Yakuza fans in my like stream, and like my friend Joe was like losing his mind for like a Dragon Nation, which does look awesome and probably is going to be a dope ass game. But that being said, even with me not being in love with the state of play, I feel like it pretty much feels established to what it is, with the exception of I was surprised that we saw a controller and also the PlayStation Stars thing, because typically you don't see like that kind of stuff just in the, it's like more of a blog post thing. So I was just a little surprised that they even brought it out. Like that was the only thing that felt like a bit out of left field. And yeah, I was also disappointed that with the PlayStation Stars thing, I unironically, I'm excited about that. I just want stupid shit I don't need for shit I'm already doing. Like, sure, why not? But I felt like we didn't learn any new information at all. So I was like, why'd you even, I mean, maybe you came out just to remind for people that don't read the blog, right? Because you want to market wherever, but I was hoping to see a little bit more of like, what does this actually mean? Or a glimpse at like, here's what you can, like just anything. And I felt like all I got was the same kind of screenshots I got, but now they're in video form and someone like told me it instead of when I read it like weeks ago. But
I feel like that's because I think once they get into the details of it, it's going to be so unexciting. I don't know if there's much more to say that's going to be hyped about PlayStation Stars.
That's scary though, because then it's like, oh, not that it needs to knock out of the park or anything. 'Cause it's like a little side program to whatever. But yeah, because on that same note, I agree with you, Greg. Like the PSVR 2 stuff, I was hoping this could be a time for, you know, VR 2 to really shine for a moment, and it felt kind of underwhelming. And from like a lot of people that I was watching it with, they were kind of like, oh yeah, like, or people I talked to after are just like, oh yeah, there's some PSVR 2 stuff, I guess, like who cares? And I'm like, no, now's our time to care. It's like we're all gonna get together and we're all gonna get the headset and we're gonna be like, you know, doing stuff in the world. But yeah, it wasn't, even as someone that's excited, it was not exciting. That said, also Pacific Drive though, that shit looked dope, so I'm excited for that, even though I don't really like roguelikes or road-likes, but I like the moodiness and the general vibe of what they set up, so I'm willing to follow them into that genre that is admittedly not my favorite of all the possibilities. But yeah,
I had a lot of fun during the state of play. I don't think it's the best state of play ever by any means. I think that was the last one. But I do think it was a banger state of play compared to where my expectations have been set for it. Because my expectations before June for state of play have been on the floor. The last 2 years of state of plays, I feel like have been just all bad. Like have been nothing after unexciting announcement, after thing I don't care about, after like when you look at the garbo. When you look at like the PlayStation blog
so many
posts
devs in tears right now. Like, oh,
listen, I'm sorry to the dev of I'm trying to think of a state of play game. Arena Legends,
no need to get specific.
Arena 100 Legends. I'm sorry, even though I played that game.
Like
you want to talk about catching strays, minding your own business. That dev's just working, listening to a podcast.
I feel like you said that looked dope. I feel like you said you were going to try that, so I don't know.
Hunter's Arena Legends? No, okay. Yeah. At first, I didn't care about it, but then I played it, and it was fun. I actually enjoyed Hunter's Arena Legends.
Secret banger, like, maybe.
I'm not still playing Hunter's. Really. I played that for the week, and I was like, all right, cool, on to the next one.
One more week than some other games, so.
I mean, listen, should I also throw a stray at Arcade-Geddon? Because that was at a state of play.
Arcade-Geddon, definitely. Well,
how long did we play Arcade-Geddon?
Like, I don't know. It was a good... we got to catch up, and that was what.
You know what? For Arcade-Geddon, though, that's on you, Bless. You were the one trying to convince yourself you wanted to play that. You were going to do something with that. I never installed it.
The beta was promising.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like Arcade-Geddon, you got to do it for the culture. You know, I play a lot of shit here. That's just so I can come on here and tell you about it. But like, it was part of our process as hosts of the show. And I know what Greg was up to when we were Arcade-Gedding it up, but he wasn't there.
He was playing As This Falls or something.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, like when I look at all, because I was doing this with every state of play, I would look back at the previous one and look at the PlayStation blog post of everything announced as state of play. I would read through that blog post and go, cool, I should not be excited for the next state of play because none of these are games.
I should learn my lesson and stay away from being excited on this.
So that has been my general attitude of about state of play. In the previous one for June, changed that, right? That was the banger one. That was when where we got RE4. That's where we got Street Fighter 6. That's where we got a lot of Roller Drum, a lot of cool looking games. And this has been the one of, all right, let's see if they continue that trend. Let's see if state of plays are back like they never left. And even though this one isn't like, the best thing of all time, I do think that there are a handful of really cool announcements here. Like I do think the PSVR 2 stuff could be better, but like Tekken 8, that's a banger. Rise of the Ronin, that's a banger. Stellar Blade, that's a banger. God of War, that trailer, one of the most banger trailers I've ever seen in my life. And so yeah, like I think the state of play overall was pretty good. And yeah, like at this point, I'm back to being moderately excited for state of plays.
Watch
Fair
out.
enough. Leave it in moderate and you'll probably be okay. You'll probably be okay.
Moderately.
Barry, clip this or remind yourself of this next time.
Yeah, whenever there's a disappointing state of play, I need you to tweet out that clip of me saying I'm moderately excited so I can go back to negative excitement. Speaking of state of play, though, one thing I'll throw in there as far as an update to one of the games, Rise of the Ronin. Sony XDev is working with Team Ninja on that game. This comes from Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. Sony Interactive Entertainment's XDev studio has confirmed it's collaborating with Team Ninja on Rise of the Ronin. Sony XDev works with external studios across the globe, providing production, management, design, and publishing support, among other services. Yasuda told the PlayStation blog last week that Sony has been supporting Team Ninja since the start of work on the project 7 years ago. And senior XDev producer Jason Stewart tweeted on Monday, quote, "Privileged to work on an exciting title as Rise of the Ronin with Yasuda-san of Team Ninja Studio, Team Ninja game producer Masaaki Yamagiwa, and our Sony XDev JP team." This is one that I found interesting, just from like the idea of, oh wow, Sony's really invested in this game. Which makes sense because Team Ninja has done exclusive stuff for PlayStation in the past with Neo and Neo 2, but to see them like work so closely, I think is worth taking note of. I don't know. Does it do anything for you guys?
Game looked awesome, so I'm stoked for more close collaboration with it to see what it actually is going to be, and the fact that it's not just a exclusive in name only, right, for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah,
I'll see you in 2024 maybe if I have nothing else going on for it. It's one that I'd like to probably check out, but it's not at the top of my list of interest. So I could see it being edged out by something if something else comes up. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely worth at least paying attention to for like the things that you mentioned as part of like PlayStation Goes.
Hell yeah.
Did he freeze right there?
He froze.
He did.
I
Wow.
was like,
Such a
this is
perfect
such a
hell
dramatic
yeah. And then I
pause.
was like, wait, what? Did he freeze?
I'm like, he's really pulling out all the stops for this updates section.
Nice back. Oh, nice
Oh,
back.
now he's in
Wait,
slow
do you
motion.
see me?
Okay.
Wait, do you see me?
There you go.
Yeah, now
Now
we
we
see you,
see
but
you,
you're,
yeah.
you're like lagged behind, I think.
My
Can you talk?
computer's
you're good.
just fucking dying right
Not
now.
caught up. Not caught up.
Okay.
It's caught up?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can't move anything. But I was going to say last thing for PlayStation updates is that Sackboy is all but confirmed for PC. There was a
Nobody
Steam leak.
fucking cares. Janet's
Sackboys in
family
there.
cares and they won't restart it, so no one cares. Don't worry about it. All right.
Listen,
Yeah,
I care.
when I read this
Play
is like such a mean
Sackboy.
thought, but I read this like another place not to play Sackboy's A Big Adventure. It's a good fucking game. It's a great game.
Sure.
But so yeah, if you haven't played it, like go play it. I saw that. What was it? Greg, you should care. They got that Toem costume in there. now.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
So,
Sackboy
yeah.
Big Adventure is like haunting us now. It's haunting us to some degree.
We should.
But you know what?
when the
Sackboy-
studio opens, we
Sackboy's
should
Big
Sackboy
Adventure-
it up, you know.
Sackboy's
Just
Big
fuck
Adventure
around.
is a
Cancel
great
other
Sackboy.
plans.
launch game. It is a great launch game.
No.
You played it because there was
It's a
nothing
great
else to
game.
play.
No,
It's a great
You
game.
played it because there was nothing
That
else to
game-
play,
No.
and now
That
no
game
one
is an
thinks
8.
about it again.
Listen, I put it above Miles
Stand on its
Morales. I'll
own.
say it. It's a better launch title than Miles
God,
Morales.
man.
That's right.
God damn it,
That's
Leslie.
right.
Now you're just saying
It is
things you
a- it
can't
is-
take back.
It
and
goes,
you don't
it goes,
is
mean
it goes
legitimately a
Pathless,
fantastic
Sackboy, then Miles
game.
Morales in third place as far as launch games go.
Jesus.
Pathless is not
That's
as good
right,
as Sackboy,
Insomniac.
but it is more interesting in that like it's different. But like Sackboy is like such a fantastic platformer, especially a group platformer like that. You don't see those things get pulled off in 3D in that way outside of like Mario 3D. I want to say World, yeah, because Land was the 3DS one. So yeah, it is a fantastic game. Go play it. I'm still playing it. I don't know when I'll finish it. worst case scenario, I make everyone play it on my birthday, and that's all I do for my birthday because I just want to be
You're
done
still
with
playing
it.
it the way that I'm still playing Persona 5. You know what I mean?
No, I'm
That's
still
like,
playing
Which
it.
is not
Okay.
playing it.
Don't.
Thank you, Bear.
I will beat Sackboy before you beat Persona 5. I'm
well, yeah,
guessing.
no shit. Like, you know what I mean?
What are we talking about then? Why are you coming at me then?
Well, you know, because what's gonna happen is Persona 5 is gonna come to this one.
Yep.
And then you'll get a wild hair and know you have to beat me, so you'll be out there playing it for no reason. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't have been playing it by
Persona 5 is so
choice.
much
It'll be
longer.
some 3 a.m. stream that
You know
Janet's
what?
on, where
But
she's
I'm
like, I gotta make
here-
sure I do this before Greg does.
I mean, no one's in this room with me right now, but I'm here with my family in spirit, and we're just here to have a good time together. If you and your Steam Deck want to Steam Deck it up with Persona 5 in the dead of night, that's your business. I'm gonna be here with my family whenever they have the time to do it, and we're gonna
Janet,
hang out.
you don't
and
have to
we're gonna
worry
be sack friends.
because when Persona 5 Royal comes to Steam Deck, Greg's gonna play 3 hours and be like, "Yep, still feel the same way," and then never touch it again. So you don't
First
have to
off,
worry about.
you know that for the record, you know I usually play 20 hours. I get to the art part. That's where I fall off.
Okay.
Twice now.
Janet,
You
I'm
know.
saying, when you come here for the studio, let's play Sackboy. Let's play Sackboy. Let's
I
make it
have
a
so
thing.
many.
Let's make
Like
it
I
a
already
segment.
again no. Well, one I don't even actually
Let me
know.
tell
You know, I don't even know shit about like what to expect. But let's just do. I have like so many stupid ideas. Let's just do all of them. I think. You know, cancel all your plans.
Blessing, did your asshole tighten a little bit when you said when you come to the new studio?
No, I didn't.
Because there was a pause there, and I had the pause too. Of like,
Yeah,
have we announced the studio
did we
yet?
announce it?
Where are we at right now? And
That
off the
fear,
record
too,
is
of,
studio
like,
information.
Of like not want. Well, again, I don't actually know anything, so it's easy not to spoil
Yeah,
anything.
you
so I'm
don't
like,
have to worry
wait.
about it. Yeah, you're fine.
I was like, keep me ignorant because I can't ruin anything. But even just the fact that like I feel like it's no shit we're gonna do content, but I'm like, do
My
people
brain, no,
know
my
we
brain
might
went through a
play
whole.
games?
My
Like,
brain went through a whole loading screen of like, we haven't announced the studio, right? Like, I didn't just
No.
leak it.
Well, I feel like even if that was true, there will be a studio one day.
There will be a studio one day,
You know,
so
so
it
it would have been
yeah.
okay. But no, you
Yeah.
did not break the embargoes we made ourselves. But
Ladies
yeah,
and gentlemen, the new
Sackboy-
studio launches Friday, October 14th, and we're falling apart trying to launch it. Come
Oh,
watch
so,
it.
If we don't end up
Marathon
playing it
stream.
during then, give me whatever I need to play PT, so I can play PT. One of you has a console
got
that has
you.
PT,
I got
So,
to
like,
yeah.
because we're driving there, so you can, and also any garbage you want to offload, I can pack it up in the car and then
Oh,
take
Nick
it
will
with
have
me.
plenty of
wow.
garbage that he wants to get rid of.
Except I
worry
don't want
about
that shit that you
Jonathan.
have, Barrett. That fucking statue. That's all you. That's all you. I
Oh
don't want
no,
that
that's
statue.
Mike. That's on Mike. He
Yeah.
needs to fucking pick that up, especially now that he lives in San Francisco.
Anyway, but
Anyway,
We got a
now-
post show to
Sackboy.
get to. Real quick, give me the drop from this week.
Of course, the drop is the games that are coming out this week on PlayStation. This week, you got Hard Space Shipbreaker for PS5. That's coming out Tuesday, September 20th.
Nikki
Solstice.
Grayson sold me on that. I downloaded that. I have that ready to go.
Oh, let me know what you
You
think.
just
I was,
go out-
I was keeping an eye on it.
You go out, you're like a space construction worker and break down ships, and they get tougher. Man, that sounds pretty cool.
We got Solstice for PS5. That's coming on Tuesday, September 20th. Serial Cleaners for PS5, PS4. That's coming Thursday, September 22nd.
real quick, I played a bit of that at 505's. They had like a preview / hands-on event, and it was cool. So like it's a sequel to the first one, Serial Cleaner. But it's nice in that it's, you know, a quick stealth thing. There's decent checkpointing, and the different cleaners have like their different abilities, I guess, for lack of a better
It's
term.
kind of
So-
like Hotline Miami, right? Where you're like you're not killing people, but you're running in and trying to clean stuff up before the cops see
sure,
the stuff,
but it's
right?
not.
You know?
It's not quite as like, you know, fat. Like you're not
Okay,
like
okay.
speed cleaning or whatever. But yeah, it's you're cleaning up like a murder scene kind of thing, or like a crime, and you're grabbing evidence and then sometimes dumping bodies. So it's like it's a cool little like top down ish angle stealth game. Not completely top down, maybe isometric, but yeah, I think it's worth checking out.
Oh yeah. We also got Session Skate Sim. That's coming to PS5 and PS4 on Thursday, September 22nd. Bear, you remember when we played Skater XL? A game that had almost no content, but we couldn't stop
No
playing that game for some
content,
reason?
really solid gameplay, a terrible trophy list. Absolutely
trying to get-
awful.
You trying to play some Session with me?
No.
No? All right, we'll just wait
No,
for
I
that.
can't. I can't get hurt again, man. I really. We put a lot of emotional baggage into Skater XL, and I just can't. Maybe if you try it out and tell me it's the water's fine, maybe I'll dip my toe. Maybe I'll
see what I can do.
Okay.
And then we got the Deal Field Chronicle that's coming to PS5 and PS4 on Thursday, September 22nd. And that's a cool looking Square game. I want to try it out. But that's it for PlayStation picks.
We've been playing games, and I want to hear all about is it Wolong or Wulong?
Wolong.
Wolong. You've mentioned it a few times in the show, but I do not know what it is. And I know that you really enjoyed it, Bless. So I want to hear about that. But I want to save that for our post show. You can get that over on patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, where you can write in to be part of the show, where you could be watching the show live, where you could get the post show, where you could, of course, support us, the Gamescast, the Xcast, get all these benefits for them and more. Of course, if you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. Remember, this is PS I Love You XOXO, and each and every Friday, you get a brand spanking new episode on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week. Thank you. If you want to go that extra mile, support us on Patreon. Support us over there on the Epic Game Store. You can use the creator code KindaFunny when you're checking out, when you're buying the V-Bucks in Fortnite, when you're doing something over in Rumbleverse. You use that one. It helps us out and costs you nothing extra. For now, though, we have a post show to do, and I want to hear all about Wolong Fallen Dynasty demo. But until next time, if you're not coming with us, it's been our pleasure to serve you.